Chapter 2473. Some of the other people present were discussing animatedly. Their voices were not very soft. Night Sorrow could hear their words. Most of them were hot-bloodedness, guts, and humility. You will understand what hot-bloodedness and humility are when you enter the Zhenyuan Divine Emperor's cave. Taking in everyone's expressions, Yishang felt that these cultivators, who hadn't experienced much and whose horizons were limited to High Base City, were pitifully narrow-minded. They were treating the exalted god like a ruler. It would be strange if people like them had any future development. Master Night Sorrow, I've already discussed with Feng Xiaoyun, the leader of the Jubao Pavilion. We will book the Drunken Immortal and tomorrow at noon to meet him. What do you think? Mingyi's words seemed very polite on the surface, but in fact, there was a trace of indisputable. That's fine. Night Sorrow nodded and said, but exalted god Mingyi is very busy every day. I'll go alone tomorrow. With your help, I don't think Feng Xiaoyun will do anything to me. That's fine too. I've done a good job as a mediator. You can discuss the rest among yourselves. Mingyi smiled and said, but the exalted god's orders cannot be disobeyed. If Feng Xiaoyun has any unreasonable requests, Master Night Sorrow will have to tolerate it. Do not offend him and lose your life. Just like everyone else, he did not think much of Night Sorrow's strength. Thank you for the reminder. Night Sorrow replied casually and said, if there's nothing else, I'll go back and prepare. All right. When Master Night Sorrow returns, we still need to talk about the cave, Underworld God said. He was very interested in something in the Zhenyuan Divine Emperor's cave. Night Sorrow had the power of merit. He was very lucky and had a high chance of encountering a fortuitous encounter. He wanted to make good use of it. From beginning to end, he didn't see any great increase in Yishan's strength. Relatively speaking, his vision was not high either. Don't worry, I'll return safely. At this point, Night Sorrow was already tired of talking to Acheron. He quickly left Acheron's mansion. After leaving Mingyi's cave abode, Night Sorrow rushed in the direction of Nanhuai Alley. However, he didn't enter his own cave abode. Instead, he used his taboo power to break through Long Tianqing's array formation and entered her residence. Without seeing Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, Yi Xiaoluo, and his other family members, he wasn't in the mood to drink with Jing Yun and the others. Walking into the mansion, Night Sorrow didn't see Long Tianqing and her maid. Instead, he saw Lin Piaomiao feeding the chickens and ducks in the courtyard. At this moment, Lin Piaomiao's clothes were coarse and she looked a little haggard. However, her complexion was much better than a year ago. It was obvious that Long Tianqing's treatment was effective. Sister Xian, I'm here to see you. He hadn't seen his family for thousands of years. The moment he saw Lin Piaomiao, Night Sorrow was very emotional. His voice trembled slightly. Husband. Hearing this shout, Lin Piaomiao immediately turned her head. Let me give you a hug. In the Endless Bone region and the Dark region, Night Sorrow had encountered countless dangers. Now that he saw a familiar figure, he immediately hugged her. Don't be like this. Grandfather and Xiaoluo are both here. Night Sorrow, who was holding Lin Piaomiao in his arms, leaned forward and kissed her. This made Lin Piaomiao shy. In the past, she was stronger than Night Sorrow. At that time, she was always standing in front of Night Sorrow. Now, she was acting like a little woman. It's okay. Night Sorrow said as he got up and kissed her again. The thousands of years of suppressed emotions also disappeared at this moment. After their lips parted, Night Sorrow walked into the thatched cottage and saw Yi Linghuan and Yi Xiaoluo playing chess. The two of them looked good. It was obvious that they didn't need to continue suffering from their illness. Where's Senior Long Tianqing? At this moment, Night Sorrow, who was in a good mood, asked. Senior returned to the family to settle some matters. She will be back in 3 years. Lin Piaomiao explained and continued, Senior told us to tell you something. She said that High Base City may encounter a crisis in the near future. High Base City will encounter a crisis. What's going on? What else did she say? Long Tianqing wasn't someone who spoke without thinking. When Night Sorrow heard Lin Piaomiao's words, he immediately asked. Senior didn't say. She only said that it will be a disaster, but it should be fine in a few years. Lin Piaomiao said truthfully. Long Tianqing left in a hurry and didn't say it in detail. But the three of them could hear a trace of worry in her voice. A disaster. Could it be that the dark murlocs or the soul-devouring beasts may attack High Bay City again? Or is the crisis in the dark region not completely resolved? Ao Qinggu, who was controlled by the dark demon, was missing. This was a hidden danger. The soul-devouring beast clan that was suppressed by the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave abode was also a hidden danger. The dark murlocs at the bottom of the sea also needed to be on guard against. Night Sorrow planned to let Xian Jizi do a divination to find out what was going on when he returned. After that, Night Sorrow had a simple meal with his family and drank some wine with his grandfather. Then, he walked out of Long Tianqing's mansion and returned to his own. At this time, Xian Jizi and the others were already full. They were sitting under the pavilion in the courtyard and discussing the matter of divination. So everyone is discussing the matter of divination. Night Sorrow walked to the front of the crowd and recounted Long Tianqing's words with a serious expression. He also asked Xian Jizi to use the compass to do a divination. All right, since it involves the safety of High Bay City, I, Xian Jizi, will do my best today. At this moment, under everyone's gaze, Xian Jizi cut his fingertip and dripped 3 drops of blood on the compass. He casually threw the compass into the sky and silently recited a mysterious incantation to deduce the future of High Bay City. Boom! But in an instant, the 3 Thunder Tribulations compass that Night Sorrow had refined for him immediately exploded in the air. Xian Jizi also suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. High Bay City's future seems to involve a great figure that can't be divined. Xian Jizi shook his head helplessly. He didn't have the ability to deduce any results. If he forced himself to do so, he would only end up dead. It shouldn't be related to me, right? Brother's compass should be able to deduce some things about me. Night Sorrow thought to himself speechlessly. After all, Xian Jizi had divined that he had killed Shengguan Lin. It can't be that it involves the heartless divine king, so it can't be divined, right? Night Sorrow suddenly thought at this time. Then, Night Sorrow and the others discussed the follow-up matters. He said, everyone, I'll be leaving for a few days after I settle the trouble at the Jubao Pavilion tomorrow. It's very likely that the outside of High Bay City will not be peaceful in the near future. I'm preparing to bring all of my clansmen into the city. You can all stay here and cultivate for a few days. If the dark mermen at the bottom of the sea were to attack, then Night Moon Island would be under great threat. Night Sorrow was naturally worried about his clansmen on the island. After he finished speaking, he rushed to the Drunken Immortal Inn and paid a large amount of divine crystals to book the Drunken Immortal Inn for the next day. Then, he found a first-class private room in the Drunken Immortal Inn and entered the Clear Sky Pagoda. In the accelerated space, he started to study the flawless divine technique that Imo Qian had given him. He was preparing to study it properly and perfect the myriad Daos treasured tomes Feather God realm. The high gods that he had encountered in the dark domain were all body-refining high gods. Their true strength was much weaker than the high gods of the divine realm. Chapter 2474. Will my presence here affect my lord's cultivation? Night Sorrow entered the space. He had just sat down and didn't have time to read the flawless divine art. Yuan Xianro, who was resting in the Clear Sky Pagoda, timidly walked in front of him. I'm sorry. There were too many things and I forgot to arrange for you. Seeing Yuan Xianro standing in front of him, who was the 73rd person he had saved from the Jubao Pavilion, Night Sorrow felt a little guilty. She had awakened him after Night Sorrow absorbed the Genesis essence, which was equivalent to saving his life. After returning to the God world, he had forgotten to settle her down in his residence. This was too negligent. My lord, I'm in the Clear Sky Pagoda's space. You have too many things to consider, so don't blame yourself. But tomorrow afternoon, you will face the Jubao Pavilion's Feng Shaoyun alone. Are you confident? Yuan Shenro asked worriedly. Speaking of which, Night Sorrow had formed a grudge with the Jubao Pavilion because of her. But at this point, she couldn't help even if she wanted to. She could only worry. Of course I'm confident. The Azure Phoenix battle armor on my body can withstand the attacks of a high god without divine Yuan Qi. Feng Shaoyun is only a low god and can't break my defense. Moreover, the strength of my body is definitely stronger than his. In close combat, I can completely crush him. But my cultivation and movement techniques are weaker. I have to improve in 100 days to ensure that he won't escape. After explaining confidently, Night Sorrow looked at Yuan Shenro and said, I've collected countless cultivation resources in the Clear Sky Pagoda. You can use them as you wish and try to break through to the God realm as soon as possible. In the God world, without the cultivation of the God realm, you're still too weak. My lord, this isn't appropriate. You've already done me a great favor by saving me. If I use your cultivation resources, I won't be able to pay you back. What Yi Shang had not expected was that Yuan Shenro would actually shake her head and refuse. She was a woman with principles. If you hadn't woken me up in the endless bone realm, I might still be asleep. You deserve the cultivation resources. Quickly break through to the God realm. If nothing unexpected happens, I will need your help very soon. The resources needed to cultivate to the spirit state were just a drop in the ocean for Yi Shang, so he said in a tone that was not to be taken lightly. Can I really help you? What Yuan Shenro cared about was the second half of the sentence. This was her personality. She believed in the principle of not accepting rewards without doing anything. But the prerequisite is that you have to cultivate to the deity realm. Spending 100 years in the Clear Sky Pagoda is only 1 year in the outside world. Make the best use of your time to cultivate. Resources can be consumed as you wish. I still have to cultivate, so I won't bother about you. After saying this, Night Sorrow flipped through the flawless divine art. The cultivation technique created by the Divine King was not simple. Even though Night Sorrow's soul power was outstanding, he still needed to carefully ponder every word before he could understand the exact meaning of the divine art. Just like when he studied Mo Qianqian's body tempering insights, Night Sorrow also studied the Feather God realm and the High God realm. Using them, he continued to complete the Feather God realm of the Myriad Tao Treasured Tome. The Feather God realm of the Myriad Tao Treasured Tome was divided into 3 parts. The body tempering part was called Wolf Smoke, and the cultivation part was called Cultivation. Night Sorrow originally thought of a name. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to divide it so carefully. He directly called the Immortal God realm part of the Myriad Tao Treasured Tome the Immortal God Art. The part he was studying now was called the Feather God Art. Currently, the Feather God Art was only lacking the soul part. However, he did not have the soul-strengthening experience of his predecessors. Therefore, he was unable to complete the Feather God Art. If he could complete the Immortal Art's Feather chapter, then the strength of Yi Shang's ki, body, and soul might very well reach a whole new level for Feather God cultivators. If I complete the Feather God Art, I'm afraid I will immediately encounter an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation. As long as the Feather God Art was successfully created, it would create a new history in the deity world. Therefore, he would definitely encounter a lightning tribulation. Night Sorrow was very satisfied with this. After that, he did not absorb the deity crystals to cultivate. Instead, he found a few spatial movement techniques that he had snatched from the Jubao Pavilion and started studying them. These spatial movement techniques were not bad. They each had their own strengths. They were considered the best movement techniques that a feather god could cultivate. But Night Sorrow's goal was to be able to fight against the high gods. Naturally, he was not satisfied. He combined the strengths of these space elemental movement techniques. He fused the spatial movement techniques together and created a new one, the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape. The Vanishing Shadow Void Escape relied on Night Sorrow's bloodline talent. It could be used to travel through the void of the deity world. In terms of speed, it was much faster than a feather god. After entering the void, only experts who were much stronger than him would be able to find him. After about 100 days, Night Sorrow mastered the vanishing shadow void escape. He returned to the drunken immortal In's private room from the clear sky pagoda. It was already the morning of the second day. There were still more than 2 hours before the noon appointment. Since the entire drunken immortal Inn was booked, there was not a single guest in the huge drunken immortal Inn. Go find your boss. Night Sorrow walked out of the room and called out to a female cultivator in a white gauze dress. He asked her to call the manager of the drunken immortal Inn. The manager of the drunken immortal Inn was a half-step feather god. Her name was Wei Yen. Is there anything I can help you with? Night Sorrow was a VIP who had spent a fortune to book the entire inn. Wei Yen quickly rushed over and asked politely. She did not put on airs as a manager. Night Sorrow took a sip of tea and ordered, "Prepare a large private room for me. It's best if it's an independent space where no one can eavesdrop." "Yes, my lord." "Do you have any other orders?" Night Sorrow's cultivation was only at the lower feather god level, but Wei Yen, who was half-step high god, still addressed him as, "my lord," with great respect. Night Sorrow was slightly surprised by this, but he did not think too much about it. He continued, "We're here to discuss some matters today. I don't want to be disturbed by anyone. Prepare the delicacies and wine first. No one is allowed to enter the private room in the future." "Yes, my lord." "No problem." Wei Yen nodded and asked politely, "Do you have any other orders?" "No." "Go and order someone to set it up." Night Sorrow said. He was going to give Feng Xiaoyun and the others a surprise today. He did not want to alert Mingi and prevent him from bringing him into the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave residence. "Yes, my lord." Wei Yen will take her leave. Wei Yen, who walked out of the private room, was a little curious. She felt that Night Sorrow was too calm. Overnight, there was a rumor in High Base City that Night Sorrow would apologize to the leader of the Jubao Pavilion at the Drunken Immortal Inn and compensate him with the forbidden divine weapon. A lower feather god should not be so calm in such a situation. Could it be that he, a lower feather god, has the strength to fight against a lower high god? Wei Yen knew that it was impossible for Mingi to help Yishang. She secretly guessed a possibility, but she shook her head. She then ordered her subordinates to complete the task Yishang had given her and walked into a secret room in the basement of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Chapter 2475. On the other side, Night Sorrow walked into the space arranged by the Drunken Immortal House and felt very satisfied. It was an independent space similar to a small world. There was a green mountain and a pavilion with a dining table at the foot of the mountain by the lake. At noon, Feng Xiaoyun of the Jubao Pavilion did not arrive on time. Night Sorrow was already mentally prepared for this. He sat at the table and enjoyed the wine and delicacies leisurely. Time passed quickly and it was evening in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Feng Xiaoyun, the sect master of the treasure-gathering pavilion, arrived with his 2 vice sect masters, Yan Jiang and Qi Yanshan, as well as the deacon Longjiu. "Everyone is here." Night Sorrow, who had just taken a sip of wine, greeted the 4 of them calmly. He had no intention of getting up. "What do you mean?" Seeing Night Sorrow's casual look, Feng Xiaoyun's face immediately turned cold and a powerful aura erupted from his body. Originally, he agreed to give Night Sorrow a chance to apologize to Mingi because he wanted to give face to him. Now Night Sorrow did not seem to take him seriously at all and did not look like he was apologizing at all. Feng Xiaoyun was very unhappy and scolded coldly, "I've already given face to Mingi by coming here. You ant, do you really think that I won't dare to touch you because Mingi has interceded for you?" Yan Jiang, Qi Yanshan, and Longjiu, who were standing behind Feng Xiaoyun, were also very angry. They felt that Night Sorrow was too good at pretending. However, now that Feng Xiaoyun was speaking, they did not dare to interrupt. "Then what do you think I should do? Kneel on the ground and beg for forgiveness and welcome the arrival of the exalted god? Or hand over the divine weapon, the Samsara halberd?" Night Sorrow did not get up and took another sip of wine. He did not have a good impression of the people of the Jubao Pavilion. How could he apologize to them? He had arranged to meet here because he did not want to make too much noise and affect the trip to the cave abode of the immortal Lord Jinyuan. He had already faced a divine lord, how could he be afraid of a mere lower exalted god? How dare you? How dare you offend the exalted god? He really doesn't know the difference between life and death. Seeing that Knight's sorrow didn't even put Feng Xiaoyun in his eyes, which was completely different from what he had imagined, Long Jiu immediately scolded. In his heart, the exalted god was not to be offended. Anyone who offended him was courting death. Since you're here, I won't beat around the bush. Knight's sorrow paid no attention to Long Jiu at all, and he gazed at Feng Xiaoyun and said, "Last time, all of you targeted me because Long Jiu took liberties with number 73, and then I destroyed your treasure-gathering pavilion. So, we're even now, and I won't pursue the matter any further. But in the year that I was away, you tortured my two friends in every possible way. This matter needs to be resolved today. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, then I'll get the answer myself." Ha ha ha. Did I hear wrongly? Instead of handing over the taboo divine artifact and kowtowing to admit your mistake, you want my treasure-gathering pavilion to give you an explanation? Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Feng Xiaoyun laughed instead of getting angry. A lower divine feather realm cultivator dared to provoke him, a true exalted god. The sun must have risen from the west. After reaching the exalted god level, Feng Xiaoyun was revered as a god wherever he went. He was regarded as one of the local tyrants of Haibei City. Now that he had been slapped in the face, he was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. The three people standing behind Feng Xiaoyun were also very angry, but they were no match for Knight's sorrow. They could only stare at him. "Yes, what you heard is right. What I mean is, I want your treasure-gathering pavilion to give my friends an explanation. Otherwise, you can't be a local tyrant anymore." At this time, Knight's sorrow slowly stood up. He could feel that his opponent's fighting spirit had completely risen, and he was ready to attack. Good. Very good. A lower divine feather realm cultivator dares to challenge me, Feng Xiaoyun. I admire your courage. Since that's the case, die. Feng Xiaoyun sneered. He gathered divine origin energy in his left hand and grabbed Knight's sorrow. He wanted to subdue him and torture him. This grab seemed simple, but it contained the laws of the exalted gods. Most divine feather realm cultivators would not be able to escape. Vanishing shadow void escape. The green phoenix armor could withstand this grab, but Knight's sorrow wanted to test the effect of the spatial movement technique. He directly used the vanishing shadow void escape and disappeared into the void. This time, Feng Xiaoyun grabbed the air. You actually managed to dodge my attack. Feng Xiaoyun clearly hadn't expected Yi Shang to be able to dodge his attack so easily. He was stunned for a moment before he blasted out a giant hand imprint of divine essence towards the void, shattering the void where Yi Shang had just been. You exalted god, you're a bit weak. At this time, Knight's sorrow appeared 100 meters in front of Feng Xiaoyun. Using the strength of his body, he threw a punch at Feng Xiaoyun. Knight's sorrow did not use any secret techniques for this punch. It was just his physical strength and speed. A mere divine feather realm cultivator dares to appear within 100 meters of me? For an immortal state cultivator, 10 million meters was a distance that could be covered in the blink of an eye. 100 meters was no different from face to face. Seeing Knight's sorrow's punch without any energy fluctuations, Feng Xiaoyun sneered and gathered divine origin energy in his right hand. He turned his palm into a fist and punched out. This punch contained divine origin energy. It was not only the strength of his body, but also the strength of an exalted god. Boom! Feng Xiaoyun's attack was completely blocked by the green phoenix armor. It did not have any effect at all. Feng Xiaoyun, who felt that victory was in his grasp, thought that he would be able to send Knight's sorrow flying with his punch. He did not defend himself at all and was punched in the chest. Although his divine origin energy automatically protected his body, he was still sent flying. Although Night Sorrow's physique refinement realm was only at the level of an intermediate divine feather realm cultivator, his body was definitely at the level of an exalted god. What's going on? Yan Jiang, Qi Yanshan, and Long Jiao were all dumbfounded. In their eyes, exalted gods were invincible and could not be challenged. However, Night Sorrow, a lower divine feather realm cultivator, sent Feng Xiaoyun flying with just his physical strength. This made them feel like their brains were about to explode. They were all stunned on the spot. They wanted to help Feng Xiaoyun but did not dare to. It seems that you have hidden your strength. You are not a divine feather realm cultivator. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Feng Xiaoyun stood up from the ground. His face was so dark that it could drip water. I was careless and fell into your trap. This will not happen twice. Die. This time, Feng Xiaoyun gathered his divine origin energy and prepared his defense. He also took out an exalted god-level long sword from his spatial artifact and attacked Night Sorrow with a sword technique. Just in time. Feng Xiaoyun's sword turned into thousands of swords in an instant and shot towards Night Sorrow from all directions. This attack was similar to the thousands of swords that shot out from the black sword box. However, after reaching the level of an exalted god, its power was even greater. Chapter 2476. Feng Xiaoyun had just become a high god and had yet to consolidate his cultivation. His strength was much weaker than Night Sorrow had imagined. An opponent of such strength could not even be used to train Night Sorrow's combat skills. His only use was to test the strength of his body with sword moves, which was why he had put away the green phoenix armor. Clang, clang, clang. 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 Night Sorrow's body did not even have a single wound. How is this possible? How strong is he? Feng Xiaoyun, who had witnessed all of this, was immediately dumbfounded. He did not know what to do. This was because this move was already his signature move. Now we can talk about compensation. If Night Sorrow wanted to kill Feng Xiaoyun, he could do it in an instant. However, he did not make a move. Instead, he sat back down at the table. Feng Xiaoyun was momentarily speechless. He had originally come to accept an apology, but now his position had been reversed. At this point, he was very sure that Night Sorrow could kill him in an instant. Since you don't want to say it, I'll say it for you. Night Sorrow did not kill anyone because he was the virtuous feather god and did not want to add unnecessary killing. However, the people of Jubao Pavilion had bullied Xian Jizi and Niu Patian so badly that this matter could not be forgotten. He said word by word, compensate my two friends with Jubao Pavilion. What? Compensate the entire Jubao Pavilion? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Feng Xiaoyun immediately refused when he heard Night Sorrow's words. However, just as he refused, he explained, Jubao Pavilion belongs to me on the surface, but in reality, it belongs to the Enning Hall Master, Ling Xiaoye. I'm his man. Are you the one who signed the contract with Jubao Pavilion? Night Sorrow did not pay much attention to Ling Xiaoye's name when he heard it. Ling Xiaoye was one of the 5 high gods of Haibei City, a veteran powerhouse. However, he could not change his decision. He had asked for Jubao Pavilion for Xian Jizi and Niu Patian. No one would be able to stop this. It's me. Feng Xiaoyun answered honestly. It's fine as long as it's you. Now, give me the contract of Jubao Pavilion. Night Sorrow ordered. Feng Xiaoyun knew that if he didn't hand over the treasure-gathering pavilion's contract, he would definitely be killed immediately. He had no choice but to hand over the contract. In the next few years, help me manage the Jubao Pavilion. When the time is right, I will send someone to take it over. As for what happened today, swear that you won't say a word about it. Otherwise, I'll kill you one by one. Jubao Pavilion's Night Sorrow was definitely going to be there. However, he would soon enter the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave abode. He was afraid that coming over would expose his strength. When he had just arrived at Seaside City, Night Sorrow had, after all, received the favor of the sticks. He did not want to use force to suppress and threaten the other party to let him enter the genuine Divine Lord's abode. That would not be in line with his principles. There's one more thing I need you to do. Help me sell some God artifacts and exchange them for God crystals or cultivation resources. Night Sorrow took out a spatial magic tool and tossed it to Feng Xiaoyun before leaving the drunken immortal building. He needed a large amount of God crystals and cultivation resources to raise his cultivation. However, he did not have much time because he had to return to the Night Moon Island as soon as possible. He dealt with the matter so quickly and left unscathed. This Night Sorrow is indeed strange. Seeing Night Sorrow leave the drunken immortal building, the person in charge of the drunken immortal building, Wei Yan, revealed a playful smile. Soon after, she saw Feng Xiaoyun and the others leave the drunken immortal building with unhappy expressions. This confirmed some of her guesses, so she entered the secret room again. She said to the Black Shadow, "Inform the elders of the Dark Alliance that they have discovered a mysterious genius and need to pay attention to him immediately. Otherwise, he might be snatched away by someone else in the future." Night Sorrow naturally did not know about this. On the way back, Night Sorrow told Yuan Shenro to help Niopadian manage the Jubao Pavilion in the future. Yuan Shenro agreed nervously. She wanted to do it well, but she was afraid that she was not capable enough. After arriving at the mansion, Night Sorrow stayed with everyone for a day. Then, he left High Base City and returned to the Night Moon Island. At this moment, the Night Moon Island was very peaceful. The situation that Night Sorrow was worried about did not happen. Moreover, there was good news coming out of the Night Moon Island recently. Night Sorrow and Lin Piaomiao's son, Yi Xiaokei, had successfully passed the God-destroying tribulation a few days ago and entered the Divine Feather Realm. He became the first Divine Feather Realm other than Night Sorrow in the Night Moon Dynasty. Xiaokei, very good. The others also need to work hard to cultivate. In the Divine Realm, only those who have broken through to the Divine Realm can barely protect themselves. After gathering the clansmen, Night Sorrow patted Yi Xiaokei's shoulder and said. He continued, "I gathered everyone here today to inform everyone that there might be a battle around High Base City in the near future. Night Moon Island is likely to be implicated. I will arrange for everyone to move to High Base City." Now that Night Sorrow was in High Base City, he had enough strength to fight against anyone. Moreover, Jing Yun was around recently. Therefore, he felt more at ease bringing the clansmen to the city. Hearing that they were about to move from the remote and deserted island to the bustling High Base City, everyone in the Night Moon Dynasty was a little excited and started discussing. At this moment, Yi Xiaokei, who had just broken through to the Divine Feather Realm, looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Father, I want to leave the clan and find a sect to learn from. Please allow me." "Have you thought about this? Now that I have a lot of cultivation resources in my hands, your strength will increase very quickly if you stay in the clan." Looking at Yi Xiaokei in front of him, Night Sorrow's brows revealed a trace of relief. Now, his youngest son had already grown up. "Father, I want to find my own opportunities. I don't want to rely on your glory forever." Yi Xiaokei's brows were very firm. "Good, you have ambition. After arriving at High Base City and seeing Mother, you can leave to find a suitable sect to join. However, there are no strong sects around High Base City. If you want to learn from a master, you may have to travel very far. You must pay attention to your safety." Night Sorrow instructed. He chose to support his son's ambition. However, he would definitely prepare some resources before he left. "Yes, father." After Yi Xiaokei advanced to the Divine Feather Realm, he was much more mature. After that, the clansmen began to pack up. Night Sorrow, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, Aoi, Xueshi, and Datura drank tea together and enjoyed the long-awaited peace. After the clansmen packed up, Night Sorrow kept them all in the Clear Sky Pagoda and brought them back to High Base City. After returning to High Base City, Night Sorrow asked Feng Xiaoyun to secretly help him buy a mansion that occupied a large area. It was the size of a small city, and he settled all the clansmen in. Then, He found Jing Yun and the others and asked Jing Yun to help him take care of his family for the time being. He then prepared to enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Last time, he had snatched a few divine-level pill recipes from the Jubao Pavilion. Knight Sorrow was prepared to refine them properly and improve his alchemy skills. He had already heard some things about the Jinyuan Divine Lord from Mo Qianqian. Chapter 2477. Knight Sorrow had obtained several divine-level elixir recipes from the Jubao Pavilion. They were all of the Feather God level. It was not difficult for him to refine elixirs of this level. In less than a month, he had refined all the elixirs and obtained 6 types of extremely high-grade Feather God level elixirs. Everything was easier than he had imagined. Knight Sorrow knew that this was due to the increase in his divine soul power. With the support of his powerful divine soul power, it was much easier for him to refine elixirs, forge weapons, and set up formations. After that, Knight Sorrow used the materials he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to set up a divine-level defensive formation for his newly purchased residence. Cultivators at the Feather God realm couldn't break through this defensive formation. Even an exalted god would have to go through a lot of trouble to break it, and Yi Shan would be alerted. However, if he entered Jinyuan Divine Lord's residence, he might not be able to sense him. After completing all this, Knight Sorrow distributed the resources he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chen. Now that he was short on time, he did not refine any divine weapons or defensive treasures for them. In the following months, Knight Sorrow entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to absorb divine crystals. As a result, his cultivation increased rapidly. He was not far from becoming a mid-level feather god. While waiting for Styx's notice, Knight Sorrow would take his friends and wives to drink tea and relax. When he had nothing to do, he would also guide his clansmen in their cultivation. Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, and Ho Lai were all old people in the god realm. They had no problem guiding others in their cultivation. Xian Jizi, who had received Jing Yun's guidance, suddenly had an epiphany. He should be able to break through from a mid-level feather god to a high-level high god soon. Neopodian did not have any talent in cultivation. Knight Sorrow sent him to the Jubao Pavilion to learn management experience. Yuan Xianro, who had been cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda, was also released to cultivate with Night Moon's clansmen. At the same time, Geng Chen, who had something to do, left alone. A few days after he left, Night Moon's dynasty produced 2 feather gods in one day. They were Knight Sorrow's wife, Datura, and his son, Yi Lingxi. Yi Xiaoluo's accident was a huge blow to his mother, Datura. She cultivated crazily and finally achieved something. After that day, Knight Sorrow brought Datura to see his son, Datura. Then, he brought Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo back to the Yi family's new mansion and held a celebratory banquet for Datura and Yi Lingxi. Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, Xian Jizi, Neopodian, and the others were very envious of the happy family. Now, they were basically all alone. However, the people of the Night Moon dynasty were good at socializing, and they quickly integrated into the big family without any barriers. Everything was developing in a good way. However, when the agreed time came, Mingi sent someone to inform Knight Sorrow that there were some accidents in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave residence, and they had to delay their entry to 2 years later. Knight Sorrow was a little surprised when he heard this news, but he didn't ask much. He felt that since he had time, he might as well go to Langqi Mountain and check on Mo Youqian's family situation. Anyway, it was just to check on the news. It wouldn't take long for him to find out the results and go to the Endless Bone region to tell him about the situation. On this day, Knight Sorrow told his family and friends that he was going to go to Langqi Mountain alone. However, Jing Yun immediately stood up and said, "I want to go to Langqi Mountain too." Jing Yun, what's wrong? You don't look right. Knight Sorrow immediately asked when he saw that Jing Yun didn't look too good. Some of the enemies who destroyed my family came from Langqi Mountain. I want to check on their strength. If they aren't strong, I'll take revenge for my family. If they are much stronger than me, I'll go to my sect to improve my cultivation. Jing Yun's face was filled with killing intent caused by hatred. Her family wasn't weak and even had a senior ancestor who was at the divine emperor level. However, it was suddenly destroyed and only she and Jing Hong escaped the disaster. The people who destroyed her family didn't belong to just one family. One of them was the Shangguan family of Langqi Mountain. Now, Jing Yun wanted to check on the Shangguan family's current strength before making her next plan. No wonder your expression changed when you heard about Langqi Mountain in the sky reaching pagoda that day. Since that's the case, let's go together. If there's a chance, I'll help you take revenge. Knight Sorrow nodded and said goodbye to Sikong Chuyu and his other wives before leaving the mansion with Jing Yun. Following behind Knight Sorrow and looking at his back, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. Some of the experiences in the Endless Bone region made her have some feelings for Knight Sorrow. However, after coming to High Base City, she met Knight Sorrow's wives and got along very well with them. Therefore, she silently suppressed all the feelings related to romance. Her personality was as gentle as water and she didn't like to rob others of their happiness. There's a town ahead. Let's go down and inquire about it. The distance of 1,000,000 miles was nothing for Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun. 2 days later, they flew to the foot of Langqi Mountain. Seeing a medium-sized town 1,000 miles away, Knight Sorrow said something to Jing Yun and flew down. Okay. At this time, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. She responded softly and followed him into the town. This town was not large and its area was less than 1% of High Base City. However, it was very lively and there were many Divine Realm practitioners. Yi Shang brought Jing Yun to the largest restaurant and ordered some dishes and wine at a table near the window on the second floor. After all the dishes were served, he rewarded the waiter with a divine crystal and said, "Brother, I want to ask you something. Is it convenient for you?" Of course, of course. Of course it's convenient. Sir, please go ahead. The waiter took the divine crystal and immediately nodded his head like a chick eating rice. To him, divine crystals were good things that could only be found by chance. Moreover, there were no other guests on the second floor at this time, so he was naturally willing to say a few more words. Have you heard of the Mo family? They once had an invincible divine lord in their family. They shouldn't be unknown. It had been a long time since Mo Yuqian attacked the dark region. Knight Sorrow wasn't sure what the Mo family was like now, so he asked vaguely. The Mo family? An invincible divine lord? There doesn't seem to be such a family in Langqi Mountain. Even if there was, it should have declined. The waiter lowered his head and thought for a while before shaking his head and replying. Then he added, there are a total of 3 large families in Langqi Mountain that have divine lords. The Shangguan family, the Murong family, and the Ling family. Brothers Mo family seems to have declined. That was true. After several reincarnations, anything could happen. It seems that it's not easy to find out about the Mo family. Hearing the waiter's words, Knight Sorrow felt a little sad for Mo Yuqian. If Mo Yuqian hadn't gone to the dark region back then, with his invincible divine lord strength, he would probably have become a divine king. Chapter 2478. Shangguan clan, Murong clan, and Ling clan? Do these clans all have monarchs? Jing Yun, who had been silent all this while, immediately asked after hearing the servant's words. She originally thought that since High Base City had declined, Langqi Mountain, which was attached to it, might have declined as well. She didn't expect that there would be 3 big clans with monarchs here. And one of them was the Shangguan clan, which had a grudge against her. This made her angry. The Shangguan clan was tyrannical, which meant that it wouldn't be easy for her to take revenge. Reporting to the esteemed guest. The 3 big clans do have monarchs. This is something that everyone in Langqi Mountain knows. And it seems that the 3 big clans have more than one monarchs. I heard that recently, an invincible feather god appeared in the Shangguan clan. He successfully defeated the master ranked 97th on the feather god list and entered the feather god list, the servant said with a trace of reverence. The Shangguan clan, Murong clan, and Ling clan were undoubtedly the three giants in Lanchi Mountain. Even when discussing, most people would use a respectful tone, afraid that they would accidentally offend the three big clans and end up being exterminated. A feather god ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list. This is interesting. What's the name of the invincible feather god of the Shangguan clan? Among the feather gods or even high gods that they met in High Bay City, none of them were talented. Hearing that there was an invincible feather god in the Shangguan clan, Knight Sorrow asked with interest. His name is Shangguan High. I heard that he can defeat high gods. It's said that he will return to Lanchi Mountain soon. You're just a servant. How dare you talk about young Master High of the Shangguan clan? While the servant was talking, a reprimand suddenly came from the stairs. Then, 2 men and 2 women walked up the stairs. Hearing the reprimand, the servant was so scared that his face changed. He hurriedly ran over and bowed to apologize. Master Lei, I just admire young Master High's deeds, so I helped to spread the news. I didn't offend you verbally. Please forgive this lowly one, Your Excellency. The leading male cultivator was called Shangguan Lei. He was an upper-level feather god and a disciple of the collateral branch of the Shangguan clan. He was a famous playboy in the town. He was very arrogant and would kill people if he was unhappy. The manservant obviously knew Shangguan Lei. After bowing and apologizing, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Shangguan Lei. Damn it. My family's young Master High ascended to the feather god list and received a reward from the divine king Wu Xian. Who in the entire divine realm doesn't know of this? Is there a need for an errand boy like you to do publicity? Shangguan Lei raised his foot and stomped on the manservant's head. Shangguan Lei was an upper-level feather god. The manservant's talent for cultivation was very low. He was far from the divine realm. When Shangguan Lei stepped on his head, the manservant immediately cried out in pain. The voice sounded like it was in extreme pain, and it was different from a human's voice. This made Shangguan Lei and the other 3 burst into laughter. Brother Lei, don't trample this servant to death. I want to enjoy some fresh blood. One of the red-robed female cultivators licked her lips. She was from the Fox clan and had the habit of drinking fresh blood. Spare people when possible. You've gone too far. If these people were allowed to continue, the manservant would definitely be tortured to death. Knight Sorrow directly reached out and grabbed him to his side. Who are you? How dare you meddle in the business of the Shangguan clan? Shangguan Lei's horse-like face was instantly attracted by Jing Yun's appearance when he saw Yi Shang and Jing Yun. With a wretched look, he said, "This beauty, are you married? If not, why don't you marry me and be my concubine? If there is a marriage, Shangguan Lei can help you beat the other party to death. The Shangguan clan is the top clan in Lanchi Mountain. If you marry into our clan, you will be taken care of. Think about it carefully." Knight Sorrow's cultivation seemed to be at the lower level of feather god. Shangguan Lei, who didn't see through Jing Yun, thought that she might have practiced a cultivation technique to conceal her cultivation. Her strength should be about the same as Knight Sorrow's, so he dared to flirt with her. You're courting death. Jing Yun, who had heard that they were from the Shangguan clan, had long wanted to attack them. When she heard Shangguan Lei's words, she immediately became furious and slapped them. Now, she had the strength of an invincible deity and could even challenge some weaker divine emperors. She slapped the 4 of them to death in anger. However, there was no sound on the second floor. This. Seeing that Jing Yun had slapped the 4 people into ashes and even shattered their divine souls, the manservant was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Knight Sorrow took out an elixir and threw it to the manservant, asking him to take it to heal his injuries. Then he said, "Don't be afraid. Continue to tell me what you know." Knight Sorrow was a little surprised that Jing Yun suddenly attacked so heavily. However, he knew that it was related to the family feud, so he didn't say anything. Jing Yun's entire family had been slaughtered by the Shangguan clan and other clans. Now, she killed some of the scum of the Shangguan clan, which could be regarded as revenge. Yes, Your Excellency. I will tell you everything I know. The manservant, who had survived, knelt down to Jing Yun and began to talk about the specific situation of Lingqi Mountain. Now, there was a main city in Lingqi Mountain called the ancient city of Lingqi. It was located at the peak of Lingqi Mountain and the three big clans ruled the city. In addition, there were 4 acropolises located in the north, south, east, and west of Lingqi Mountain. The names of these 4 acropolises were very simple. They were called East City, West City, South City, and North City. They were all attached to the ancient city of Lingqi. However, they had developed until now and both the scale and the strength of the cultivators had surpassed High Base City. Originally, Lingqi Mountain was only an attached area of High Base City. Now, even the acropolises of the ancient city of Lingqi have surpassed High Base City. What's going on? After the manservant finished speaking, Jing Yun immediately frowned and muttered. She had spent countless years in the endless bone realm. After returning, she found that the surrounding environment had changed greatly. The original center of the city, High Base City, had declined, while the other areas had developed. Are you 2 cultivators from High Base City? Hearing Jing Yun's words, the manservant's face immediately changed. We are from High Base City. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost when you heard this name? Seeing the manservant's reaction, Knight Sorrow reprimanded him angrily. My lord, everyone in Lingqi Mountain knows that as long as a talented cultivator in High Base City approaches the High God realm, they will be captured by the big clans and imprisoned. Given how powerful this lady was, could it be that she had managed to escape after being imprisoned? If that's the case, you'd better escape quickly. Otherwise, in a while, there will definitely be experts from the big clans chasing after you. The manservant said with a nervous expression. He knew the strength of Shengguan Lei and the others. They were all at the High God realm, but Jing Yun was able to slap the 4 of them into ashes. Her strength should be at least at the High God realm. There's such a thing? That means that if the cultivators of High Base City are talented and chosen and taken away, not only will they not have the chance to become stronger, but they will also be completely imprisoned? No wonder High Base City has become weaker and weaker. Chapter 2479. At this moment, Knight Sorrow recalled that among the 5 high gods of High Base City, the city lord was called Shengguan Yun, the Umbra Hall master was called Ling Xiaoya, and the Wuji Pavilion master was called Murong Yuan. Now, it seemed that the 3 of them were most likely sent to High Base City by the major clans. Their goal was naturally to control High Base City and capture and imprison any talented cultivators they found. Even the servants in the restaurants of Lingqi Mountain knew that the cultivators of High Base City were being targeted, but almost no one in High Base City knew about it. There was definitely someone deliberately controlling it. How much hatred and resentment do these clans have with High Base City that they would do such an inhumane thing? Do you know the reason behind it? Mo Yuqian, Divine Lord Jinyuan, and Ao Fong, the 3 invincible Divine Lords, had sacrificed themselves to protect High Base City, but now it was being targeted like this. This made Knight Sorrow very unhappy, so he stared at the servant and asked. I heard that it seems to be related to Wu Xian, the Divine King, but I haven't heard the details. The servant nodded and explained. He had been serving tea in the restaurant for 100,000 years, so he naturally heard a lot of things, but he wasn't sure if it was true or false. If this is really because of Wu Xian, then he's really a good-for-nothing. Knight Sorrow couldn't help but curse. Back then, Mo Yuqian, Ao Fong, and Divine Lord Jinyuan had brought the most important resources of High Base City to battle. In the end, most of these opportunities were obtained by Wu Xian, who had almost used up the resources of a city before he became the Divine King. If he was really targeting High Base City, then he was simply worse than a beast. Sir, you can't insult the Divine King. A big shot like the Divine King has a lot of luck. If you offend him, the consequences will be unimaginable. Even if you insult him behind his back, it's still very dangerous. The servant had heard a lot of things over the years, so he immediately advised Knight Sorrow. If Wu Xian is really that kind of villain, then I don't mind personally taking away his luck in the future. Thinking about the various things that happened in High Base City, Night Sorrow felt that what the servants said was very likely right. If the decline of High Base City is really related to Wu Xian, then he's really too much. If this is true, what should we do? Jing Yun's heart was also very uneasy. Let's go to the citadel of Lang Chi City in a while and ask about the Mo clan. Then, we'll check if this matter is true. If it's true, we'll think of a way to rescue the imprisoned cultivators. High Base City, which was reclaimed with the lives of our predecessors, is not a place for sluts to trample on as they wish. Night Sorrow drank a mouthful of wine. Originally, he came to investigate the matter of the Mo family, but unexpectedly, he learned such a shocking truth. How could he remain calm? Alright, that's the only way. Let's go to the 4 great citadels first. If we can't find anything, we'll go straight to the peak of Lungchi Mountain. Jing Yun's face was also filled with anger. At this moment, Night Sorrow waved his hand and erased the servant's memory. Then, together with Jing Yun, they immediately left the town and flew towards the west side of the city. The west side of the city was built halfway up Lungchi Mountain. A large part of it was suspended in the air. Many of the buildings were floating in the clouds, somewhat similar to the city in the sky. After arriving at the west side of the city, Night Sorrow and Jing Yun, who had changed their appearance and aura, did not go to the restaurant to inquire about information. Instead, they walked into a shop called Dark Tower and prepared to spend divine crystals to buy information. Although this Dark Tower was not in Lang Chi City, it was near Lungchi Mountain and had the most up-to-date information. 2 lords, welcome. As soon as Night Sorrow and Jing Yun walked into Dark Tower, a white-bearded old man who looked like a shopkeeper immediately stood up and greeted them with a smile. I heard that as long as you pay enough divine crystals, you can buy any information here. After being greeted by the shopkeeper, Night Sorrow sat on an armchair and took a sip of the tea served by the waiter. Not to the extent of having any information. After all, the realm of the gods is too big. Many super experts have gone there and can't be investigated. However, the information about the Wu Xian divine realm is not far from the truth. The old man stroked his beard and said confidently. Since you are so confident, could it be that you are from the 3 big families? The old man was very confident. Night Sorrow asked a probing question. If the other party was from the 3 big families, then his question might cause a big disturbance. Dark Tower has nothing to do with the 3 big families. The old man shook his head and said, Customer, you have asked 2 questions. Continue to ask questions. I will charge according to the difficulty of the questions. Okay. In that case, I will start to ask questions. Night Sorrow originally thought that Dark Tower would take him and Jing Yun to a secret room to make the deal. He did not expect the other party to be so direct. He thought for a while and asked, Is the Mo family, which had an invincible divine emperor, still in existence? I can answer this question, but I will charge you 30,000 divine crystals. The old man smiled and asked, Do you choose to pay 30,000 divine crystals for information? Here are 30,000 divine crystals. Take them. Night Sorrow did not hesitate. He took out 30,000 divine crystals from his spatial device and handed it to the old man. If I am not wrong, the invincible divine emperor you are talking about is the golden body divine emperor, Mo Yuqian, right? The old man asked. Hearing this, Night Sorrow immediately felt that he had asked the right person. He nodded and said, That's him. How is his family now? Sigh. They exist in name only. All the talented cultivators have been suppressed. What a pity. The old man sighed and told him about the current situation of the Mo family. The current Mo family was not completely destroyed, but there were less than 100 people left in the whole family. They lived in seclusion in the depths of Lungchi Mountain. As long as a talented cultivator appeared in the family, he would immediately be taken away by the 3 big families and suppressed. Now, there were not even many divine realm cultivators in the family. Damn it. 3 big families, you are too much. Hearing this, Night Sorrow took a sip of tea and calmed down. He continued to ask. The cultivators of High Base City were suppressed by the three big families. Is this related to the Wuxin Divine King? Hearing Night Sorrow's question, the old man was stunned for a moment and then said, this matter involves the Divine King. It will cost you 300,000 divine crystals. 300,000 divine crystals? I don't have enough. Can I pay with divine weapons or elixirs? Night Sorrow had basically used up all his divine crystals. He had less than 300,000 left. Just as the old man was about to answer, Jingyun took out a spatial device and handed it to the old man. Here are 300,000 divine crystals. Tell me the whole story. Okay. As long as there are divine crystals, everything is negotiable. The old man chuckled and said, the suppression of High Base City was caused by the Wuxin Divine King. When the Wuxin Divine King grew up, he received favors from several invincible divine lords in High Base City, but he did not complete the task they asked him to do. After becoming the Divine King, he deduced that he would suffer a calamity because of High Base City. Therefore, he has been suppressing High Base City for a long time. The three big families of Langqi Mountain are all his trusted aides. He knew this matter like the back of his hand. So that's the case. Then do you know where the suppressed cultivators of High Base City are being held? Night Sorrow continued to ask. After confirming the truth of the matter, he was ready to think of a way to rescue some of the cultivators of High Base City. They are all being held in the dungeon of Langqi Ancient City under the personal watch of a divine lord. With the strength of the two of you, it's basically impossible to rescue them. The old man obviously saw through Night Sorrow's thoughts. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, but if you join an organization, there is a chance to rescue the cultivators of High Base City. What organization? Chapter 2480. Why don't the two of you follow me inside for a chat? Night Sorrow and Jingyun were clearly interested in this topic. The old man stood up and gestured for them to follow him. He hadn't even stood up when they were talking about the Divine King. Now that he was inviting them inside, it was clear that things weren't as simple as they seemed. All right, please lead the way. The old man appeared to be in the Divine Feather realm, but Night Sorrow could see that he was only a lesser high god. Although he wasn't weak, he wasn't much of a threat to him and Jingyun. The Dark Tower's defensive formation wasn't very advanced either. It could only isolate them from detection. Overall, it wasn't much of a threat. Night Sorrow glanced at Jingyun, then followed the old man into the underground chamber. Let me introduce myself. I'm Zhuang He of the Dark Alliance. I'm a lesser high god and one of the 10 great elders of the Dark Alliance. The old man's aura expanded as soon as they entered the secret chamber. He unleashed the aura of a lesser high god. The aura was isolated by the chamber and didn't leak out. I'm sorry to embarrass myself. Zhuang He retracted his aura after showing off his strength. He knew that Jingyun was stronger than him. According to the Dark Alliance's information, Night Sorrow wouldn't be too far off. Elder Zhuang He. You want me to join the Dark Alliance? Tell me what kind of organization the Dark Alliance is. Night Sorrow looked around to make sure there was no ambush. He asked calmly. Jingyun stood behind him. She was wary of the old man, but she didn't leak any of her divine origin energy. To put it bluntly. The Dark Alliance is an alliance to stop Wuxin from harming the geniuses of High Base City. Since its establishment, it has secretly protected more than 100 geniuses in High Base City. Even the weakest of these geniuses are half-step high gods. More than 30 of them have become high gods. At this point, Zhuang He revealed a trace of a smile and said, actually, Yishang, you are also a target that my Dark Alliance has set their eyes on and is prepared to protect. You've been keeping a low profile in High Base City, so Wuxin hasn't noticed you yet. Once they do, they'll capture and imprison you. Me? How did you notice me? Night Sorrow felt that he had kept a low profile, but he didn't expect to be noticed. Speaking of which, our Dark Alliance's businesses are spread all over High Base City and Langqi Mountain. The Drunken Immortal restaurant where you met Feng Xiao Yun last time is one of our properties. The manager, Wei Yan, is my disciple. Zhuanghe chuckled as he explained, I didn't expect that you would come knocking on my door right after I noticed you. That's why I'm telling you about the heartless divine king. That's information you can't buy with divine crystals. I want to know why you are protecting the genius cultivators of High Base City, and what is your motive for forming the Dark Alliance? Night Sorrow looked at Zhuanghe. After all, nothing happened without a reason. If the motive was unclear, then there was definitely a problem. We protect the geniuses of High Base City for two reasons. First, we want to fight against the heartless divine king one day. Second, we want to accumulate talents so that we can protect High Base City in the future. When danger comes, High Base City won't have no one to rely on. Our alliance master, Ao Qingyun, is the son of the old city lord, Ao Fang. He doesn't want to see High Base City, which his father used his life to protect, be occupied by dark creatures one day. Zhuanghe explained, and then said angrily, now that the dark murlocs are acting strangely, and there's also a problem with the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, the soul-devouring beast will break through the suppression barrier at any time and return to High Base City. At that time, the heartless Divine King's people will definitely not take action. We will have to fight to the death to protect High Base City. But if you fight to the death, even if you can protect High Base City, you will be exposed to the heartless. Night Sorrow asked, but his heart was affected by the matter of the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Hearing Zhuanghe's words, he understood that Mingyi had already caused an uproar in the city, and the Dark Alliance had already found out the truth. Even if we die in battle, the people of the Dark Alliance will not watch as High Base City falls. Zhuanghe explained. It turned out that most of the elders of the Dark Alliance were Ao Fang's descendants or his former subordinates. They had deep feelings for High Base City. I admire your determination. Night Sorrow praised sincerely, then said, but the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave is very important to me. Can we talk about the situation there first? Of course. Zhuanghe looked at Night Sorrow, then at Jingyun. Jingyun clearly had the strength of a high god, but she stood beside Night Sorrow without saying anything, as if he was the leader. Zhuanghe couldn't figure out the relationship between the two. Seeing that Jingyun didn't say much, he continued to talk to Night Sorrow. Now, the entire Lanqi Mountain knows about the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. That Mingyi couldn't withstand the pressure and revealed the location of the cave. Now, 3 peerless feather gods have entered the cave to search for opportunities. Zhuanghe sighed, alas. It's a pity that we only have one peerless feather god in the Dark Alliance, and he's only ranked 100th on the feather god list. He's no match for the other 3 peerless feather gods. Even if he goes in, he'll be courting death. There's such a thing. How strong are the other 3 peerless feather gods? Hearing this, Night Sorrow couldn't sit still anymore. It turned out that Mingyi wasn't delaying the trip to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. He was kicked out. Saying that there was a delay of 2 years was just an excuse. The peerless feather gods of Wuxin's faction had already entered, but he was still waiting here like an idiot. He had made an agreement with Long Tianqing to find the letter left behind by the Jinyuan Divine Lord. Now that there was an accident, how could Night Sorrow, who was anxious to save his family, not be anxious? Those 3 peerless feather gods are the strongest of the feather god realm in the Wuxin divine realm. They have the strength to kill high gods, but no one knows their true strength. They're ranked 47th, 76th, and 97th on the feather god list. Zhuanghe knew that Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god. He was very confident in Night Sorrow's character, so he didn't hold anything back. The other party was frank and open. He didn't hide anything when he talked about it. This left a good impression on Night Sorrow. He felt that even if he didn't join the Dark Alliance, he could still work with this organization and help each other. So he said, why don't I work with the Dark Alliance's peerless feather gods and enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave together? With me there, they won't succeed so easily. Night Sorrow was very confident in his own strength. The top 100 feather gods of the divine realm were all true geniuses. He hadn't encountered such true geniuses since coming to the divine realm, but he wasn't afraid at all. Work together? That's fine. Zhuang He heard what Night Sorrow meant. He wouldn't immediately join the Dark Alliance, but would form an alliance with them. Knowing that Night Sorrow had the strength to fight high gods, Zhuang He thought that with him joining, there might be a chance to turn things around. After all, the Jinyuan Divine Lord's most important inheritance was a cultivation technique that could strengthen the soul. This was something that could only be found by chance in the divine realm. Chapter 2481. Since the other party agreed to cooperate, Night Sorrow quickly asked, the invincible feather god ranked 97th is called Shengguan Hai. I heard about that. What are the other two called? What are their characteristics? Hearing Night Sorrow's question, Zhuang He organized his words and explained, the one ranked 76th is called Leng Ningxin. She's a human female cultivator and is good at ice attacks and defense. The one ranked 47th is called Ji Hao. I don't know what his true form is, but he's definitely not a human cultivator. His body is very strong and he's good at close combat. The strongest one is good at refining his body. I don't know if it's related to Wuxin. Hearing this, Night Sorrow continued, there's no time to lose. Hurry up and contact your people. We'll enter Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave together. To be honest, I was asked to look for Jinyuan Divine Lord's letter. If I can find it, I'll owe the Dark Alliance a favor and I'll definitely repay it in the future. Okay. I hope this is the beginning of our fighting side by side. This is our first cooperation. Other than the letter, you and the Dark Pavilion will split the rest equally. How about that? Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a dragon. He didn't deliberately hide it and gave Zhuang He some confidence. Seeing that Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a supreme god, Zhuang He politely proposed the distribution method. Hearing this, Night Sorrow understood that the Dark Pavilion would definitely send a lot of people this time. He said casually, I'm determined to get Jinyuan Divine Lord's letter. As for the rest, the Dark Pavilion can do as you see fit. Okay, then it's decided. Zhuang He nodded with satisfaction. He left the voice transmission stone and called a servant to take Night Sorrow and Jingyun to another courtyard to rest. He then went to contact the Dark Alliance. They were ready to set off immediately and go straight to Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave had been open for decades, but those who entered were all inferior feather gods. This time, 3 invincible feather gods entered. This way, the opportunity might be lost. Zhuang He was very anxious. After the servant arranged a courtyard for Night Sorrow and Jingyun, he ordered someone to bring food and wine. Sitting at the table, Night Sorrow looked at Jingyun and said with a smile, you're much stronger than me, but you've been so quiet that I feel embarrassed. Hee, it's nothing. I'm not a talkative person. Jingyun smiled and raised her wine cup. Let's have a drink. Take it as me supporting you on your journey. I hope you can find God Jinyuan's letter and bring it back to save your family. Now that Jingyun was alone, she envied Night Sorrow for being able to fight for his family. Alright, I'll count on your auspicious words then. Night Sorrow picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he asked, I don't know how many years I will stay in Jinyuan's Immortal's cave. Are you going to stay in High Bay City or go out to find your master? The Shengguan clan was very powerful and they had more than one Sir God. Night Sorrow knew that with Jingyun's current strength, it would be very difficult for her to take revenge. I feel that after you leave, your family will immediately become too weak to withstand a gust of wind. So while you're away, I'll stay in High Bay City and protect your family. Jingyun said with a smile, and then drank the wine in the cup. How can I accept that? It will delay your time of revenge. Hearing Jingyun's words, Night Sorrow felt a surge of warmth in his heart, but he hurriedly refused. As for his family, he actually had plans to hide them all in the Endless Bone Realm. After all, it was safe there for now. It's okay. At most, you can help me take revenge after you come out. Jingyun said softly. Then she asked, it's settled then. Oh right, How long have you been stuck at the lower high god level? I see that you're very strong in other aspects, but your cultivation is pitifully weak. It's a little unbalanced. It's a little unbalanced, but there's nothing I can do for now. Just absorbing divine crystals is too slow. It's not enough to support me until I reach the middle feather god level. His cultivation, the strength of his body, the strength of his soul, and the strength of his power of merit were indeed very unbalanced when compared to Yi Chen. But this was related to the characteristics of the endless bone realm. There was nothing he could do. You're about to face the super powerhouses of the feather god level. They might be even more difficult to deal with than ordinary high gods, Jing Yun said as she looked at Night Sorrow. Then she took out an item from her spatial artifact and handed it to Night Sorrow. This is the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. It's thousands of times more effective than divine crystals. Enter the accelerated space and see if it can help you reach the middle feather god level. Jing Yun knew that Night Sorrow's power of virtue could stimulate his cultivation. He could cultivate from the lower feather god level to the middle feather god level without encountering any bottlenecks. All he had to do was absorb all the energy. No, this is too valuable. I can't accept it. Night Sorrow knew that the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid that Jing Yun gave him was a rare treasure in the god realm. Its value could not be measured in divine crystals. Even if he was the kind of person who didn't care about trifles, he couldn't take advantage of her again and again. As if she had expected Night Sorrow to react this way, Jing Yun smiled sadly. I don't have a single family member now. I only have a few friends. Among them, only your cultivation can make use of the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. If you don't want it, it has no value. The truth was just as Jing Yun said. The 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid was a rare treasure to Night Sorrow, but to an invincible high god like her, it was of little use. Alright, in that case, I'll accept it. But I won't accept it for nothing. I'll definitely repay this favor. Speaking of her family, Jing Yun's eyes reddened. Night Sorrow didn't continue to refuse. Night Sorrow was about to accept it when Jing Yun smiled and said, then I'll wait for your favor. In truth, she didn't take this matter to heart. There's no time to lose. I'll enter the spatial artifact to cultivate. If Zhuang He comes back, tell him to wait for me for a few days. I'm not far from the intermediate feather god realm. I should be able to break through soon. Night Sorrow said to Jing Yun, then walked into a guest room in the courtyard. He entered the accelerated space and used the Immortal Divine Arts Feather God chapter to absorb the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. Time passed quickly. After cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda for 50 years, Night Sorrow's cultivation had successfully advanced to the intermediate feather god realm. His strength had also increased. Now, he only lacked a few god-tier combat techniques. Absolute techniques were things that could only be found by chance. Night Sorrow felt that the most important thing at present was to enter the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave and immediately leave the Clear Sky Pagoda after breaking through to the intermediate feather god realm. He had spent 50 years in the Clear Sky Pagoda, but only half a year had passed in the god realm. It wasn't too long. At this time, Jing Yun, who was worried about the safety of Night Sorrow's family, had already left. Zhuang He led 11 feather god realm cultivators and stood guard in the courtyard. Intermediate feather god? It's actually an intermediate feather god. We waited for half a year just to wait for an intermediate feather god? Elder, aren't you making fun of us? Chapter 2482. Night Sorrow had just become a mid-level feather god. He couldn't hide his aura and was easily seen through. At first, Yun Tianyi thought that Night Sorrow, who had been chosen by Zhuang He and claimed to be on par with him, would definitely be a half-step high god. Now that he saw that Yi Futian was only a mid-level feather god, he was furious. Tianyi, don't be rude. Night Sorrow is on par with you. Zhuang He had a good temper. Yun Tianyi's aura was strong and his tone was a little harsh, but he still tried to persuade him with a smile. Others couldn't sense Night Sorrow's strength, but he knew. At the same time, he also believed that the Dark Alliance's information couldn't be wrong. Elder, if I remember correctly, the experts on the Feather God list are all half-step high gods, right? Yun Tianyi shouted angrily, but he clearly just became a mid-level feather god. How can someone like him be on par with me? If he's on par with me, why isn't his name on the Feather God list? When he heard Knight Sorrow's name, all the names on the Feather God list flashed through Yun Tianyi's mind. He became even angrier when he realized that he wasn't on the list. He thought that the elder was trying to harm him. He sent a piece of trash who wasn't on the Feather God list and claimed that he was an expert. If he entered the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave with such a person and encountered the 3 invincible feather gods, he would definitely die. After being questioned by Yun Tianyi repeatedly in front of Knight Sorrow, Zhuanghe's temper was very good, but his tone became serious. The measure of a cultivator's strength is combat power, not the feather god list. Don't take it to heart. Although he's a mid-level feather god, he has the strength to defeat a high god. A mid-level feather god can defeat a high god? Do you even believe yourself when you say something like being an elder? You found this thing and tricked me into entering the cave. Aren't you trying to harm me? After glancing at Knight Sorrow at the beginning, Yun Tianyi's gaze was fixed on Zhuanghe. He didn't care about Knight Sorrow or the other feather gods at all. Since you don't believe me, let's fight. Knight Sorrow had cultivated for many years and had the power of merit in his body. He disdained such a fierce battle. However, he knew that if he did not prove himself, Yun Tianyi would continue to cause trouble. Therefore, he spoke up. In fact, he did not need anyone's help at all. He just wanted to find out the entrance to the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave from them. There was no need for a battle. If you can take one of my palms and not die, I will allow you to travel with us. Yun Tianyi, who didn't even place Knight Sorrow in his eyes, congealed his god elemental energy and sent a palm strike towards Knight Sorrow ferociously. This palm was sparkling with the might of a high god. It wasn't something an ordinary feather god could withstand. Nonsense. Seeing Yun Tianyi make a move, Zhuanghe immediately became furious. He waved his palm to stop him. He knew that Knight Sorrow definitely had the strength to back it up. This was the information he had obtained from the Dark Alliance and his judgment. It couldn't be wrong. However, he was afraid that Yun Tianyi would anger him and affect the overall situation. After all, with Yun Tianyi's strength, if he led a team into the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave alone, he would undoubtedly be courting death. At this moment, Knight Sorrow grabbed Yun Tianyi with his left hand and grabbed Zhuanghe with his right hand. He easily neutralized their movements. Knight Sorrow, who did all this, didn't even use his god elemental energy. How is this possible? Yun Tianyi was instantly stunned by Knight Sorrow's calmness. He opened his mouth but didn't say a word. He had used all his strength in the palm strike just now. It was already equivalent to a high god's palm strike. He just didn't use his secret technique. He didn't expect that a mid-level feather god would be able to neutralize it so easily. This was a huge blow to him. Nothing is impossible. In the path of cultivation, there is no strongest, only stronger. I see that you've obviously become complacent with your achievements today. This is not conducive to continuing to become stronger. If it weren't for Elder Zhuanghe, I wouldn't have said this to you. Yun Tianyi was a genius saved by the Dark Alliance. He was likely to fight for High Base City in the future, so Knight Sorrow didn't argue with him. He continued, if there's nothing else, let's go. It's my fault for delaying you for half a year. After entering the Divine Lord's cave, I will do my best to take care of you. Why can't a mid-level feather god on the feather god list defeat me? At this moment, Yun Tianyi was still thinking with a bitter face. He felt that this was unbelievable. Tianyi, don't worry about it anymore. It's time to move. Zhuanghe comforted him. Then, he led Knight Sorrow, Yun Tianyi, and the other 12 feather god cultivators out of the Dark Tower's tunnel. After leaving the city, they went straight to the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave was located in a secret fissure a few million miles east of High Base City. Night Sorrow and Yuntiani led 10 half-step high god cultivators and walked in the fissure for half a month before they found the entrance to the cave. There are 4 half-step high gods near the cave. They are hiding in the stone walls. Don't give them a chance to use the voice transmission stone. That will alert them. When they were still 10,000 miles away from the cave, Night Sorrow used his divine sense to probe the cave and found the 4 half-step high gods hiding in the stone walls. They were definitely the sentries of the forces inside. He pointed out the location to Yuntiani and the others and took the lead to sneak in. Should we go too? The half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance didn't have as strong divine sense as Night Sorrow. They didn't detect the enemy and looked at Yuntiani in confusion. If we are discovered by the sentries, the people inside will be prepared. This is going to be troublesome. Let's trust him this time. Yuntiani was an arrogant and unruly person, but after being defeated by Yishang, he had already put away his arrogance. However, he still felt somewhat displeased and jealous in his heart. It was just that he didn't show it right now. Later, they cooperated with Night Sorrow and found 4 sentries in a row. After eliminating the sentries, they trusted Night Sorrow more. Let's go in. For safety reasons, I will go first. You guys follow behind. The entrance to the cave was located by the Dark Alliance. Night Sorrow was very confident in his strength. He said and walked in front. He wanted to protect the members of the Dark Alliance. Keep pretending. I think you want to go in front and take the lead in getting the resources. Yuntiani saw Night Sorrow's reaction and thought to himself. He had always been the leader of the feather gods of the Dark Alliance. No matter what mission was completed, he was the one in command. Now that he saw Night Sorrow overshadowing his brilliance, Yuntiani's mood gradually became complicated. Someone has indeed been here and set up a formation. After entering the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, Night Sorrow found that the place he had just entered was a long and narrow circular passage. It looked like a cave. On the ground inside, there were several hidden formations that almost didn't have any fluctuations. He quickly reminded them. What greeted them was the soul-devouring evil wind that was stronger than the one in the endless bone realm. You guys wait for me here. I will go and break the formation. Bracing himself against the familiar soul-devouring evil wind, Night Sorrow took a step forward and walked into the passage. Hey! This is the soul-devouring evil wind. Come back quickly and wait for the wind to stop before going in. Yuntiani, who was standing at the entrance, saw Night Sorrow walk in and immediately reminded him as if he was an idiot. It's okay. The soul-devouring evil wind can't do anything to me. Night Sorrow turned around and waved his hand, indicating that he was fine. The soul-devouring evil wind could not do anything to his body's strength. These formations are not simple. It seems that we really need to be careful. Night Sorrow began to break the formation while enduring the soul-devouring evil wind. As soon as he started, he realized that the formation on the ground was not simple. It was obviously not something that an ordinary feather god could break. There was no doubt that there were not only 3 invincible feather gods in the other party's lineup, but also experts in formations. It was possible that one of the 3 invincible feather gods was very skilled in formations. Chapter 2483. Isn't it simple? I think you're the one who's deliberately mystifying things. Those who came in are all feather gods. How powerful can their formations be? Yuntiani mocked as he watched Night Sorrow break the formation in the soul-devouring evil wind. He was ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list and was known as the invincible feather god. He regarded himself as a high god. Although 3 feather gods ranked higher than him had come in this time, he felt that even if they were stronger than him, their formations would not be much of a threat to him. In fact, it was not that Night Sorrow liked to steal the limelight, but that the various formations set up by the other party were indeed not simple. They were mysterious and targeted. The first array he set up was a very powerful invisible killing array. If Night Sorrow had not discovered this killing formation, most of the half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance would have been killed or injured if they had rushed in recklessly. If you think I'm deliberately mystifying things, you can come over and try. Yun Tianyi was not weak, but he obviously did not understand formations. Otherwise, he would have seen some clues. Night Sorrow, who was breaking the formation, observed the formation patterns but could not find the core of the killing formation. He wanted to break the formation but did not know where to start. He was annoyed by Night Sorrow's interference, so he casually replied. Unexpectedly, upon hearing those words, Yun Tianyi really condensed his divine essence to protect himself and rushed over. He could not see the range of the formation at all. He rushed directly into the killing formation's range. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword rays burst out from the killing formation and shot toward Yun Tianyi. The individual attack power of these sword rays was almost equivalent to the sword chi of an ordinary upper-level feather god. It was not much of a threat to an invincible feather god like Yun Tianyi. That's all. Look at you making a fuss. Yun Tianyi immediately mocked when he realized that these sword rays could not break through his protective chi of righteousness. However, Yun Tianyi soon realized that something was amiss. This array was actually using the terrain to strengthen the soul-devouring evil wind. Under the attacks of the strengthened soul-devouring evil wind and the tens of thousands of sword rays, his protective chi was rapidly being depleted. This feeling was like boiling a frog in warm water. At first, there was no feeling, but as time passed, the pressure became more and more terrifying. Gradually, Yun Tianyi's face became serious. The high gods of the Dark Alliance who were watching from afar shouted anxiously. The two formation masters among them, Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue, formed their protective auras and rushed out. Yun Tianyi was an important figure in the Dark League. Although they were struggling in the soul-devouring evil wind, they gritted their teeth and moved to the front of the formation to help break it. However, their horizons were not as broad as Night Sorrow's. Otherwise, they would have discovered the formation a long time ago. Therefore, their efforts were futile. On top of that, the soul-devouring evil wind had reduced him to a sorry state. Not only had his stellar energy been shattered, even his defensive robe had been torn apart. Why did you come down here? Go back. Seeing Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue rushing down to help, Yun Tianyi, who had taken out his long sword to block the wind, immediately scolded them angrily. His attitude was not good, but it was clear that he cared about them. All right, we'll go back now. Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue knew that something was wrong and immediately rushed toward the entrance. However, the soul-devouring evil wind here was very strange. It was easy to enter, but difficult to return. Before they could even take a few steps, Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were blown to pieces. They could not even stand properly and could only crawl on the ground. Bastards! Everyone, come and help. Do you want to see Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue die in the wind? Yun Tianyi, who was fighting against the killing sword, shouted anxiously when he saw that Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were about to die in the soul-devouring evil wind. Hearing this, the other half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance immediately formed their protective chi and prepared to rush in. At this moment, they were fully aware of how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind in the cave abode was. If not for Night Sorrow's warning, they would have rushed in mindlessly and the consequences would have been unimaginable. It seems that the members of the Dark Alliance get along well. In order to save their companions, the members of the Dark Alliance were not afraid of death. Seeing this, Yi Shan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. To be able to see the whole picture with a single glance, this proved that the Dark Alliance was humane. It must be because of Ao Fang's son, Ao Qingyun's good leadership. I know you're anxious, but it's useless to go in together. Let's wait at the entrance. I'll save them. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were in a sorry state, Night Sorrow naturally would not sit by and do nothing. He shouted at the entrance and formed his power of merit to protect them and send them back to the entrance. This is such a powerful power of merit. This was the first time Night Sorrow had used his power of merit in front of these people. When the members of the Dark Alliance saw that Night Sorrow's power of merit could easily block the soul-devouring evil wind, they could not help but praise him. Thank you, Night Sorrow. Zhou Tsangxue's face was pale as he returned to the entrance and immediately thanked Yi Shiwen. Thank you, Brother Yi. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit on top of being strong. You're much stronger than us. There's a spot on the feather god list for you. Lin Mo, who was also in a sorry state, thanked Yi Shiwen sincerely. If not for Night's sorrow, they might have died in the soul-devouring evil wind. The soul-devouring evil wind was different from the information they had received. It was clearly stronger. Thank you, Brother Yi. Thank you, Brother Yi, for saving us. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Tsangxue were saved, the others also cupped their fists in gratitude. Then, Zhou Tsangxue, who still had lingering fear, begged Night's sorrow, Tianyi is the most talented among us. Senior Brother Yi, please save him. Don't worry, we came together. I naturally won't leave him to die. Saving him is more important, so I won't be polite with you. After replying, Night's sorrow immediately turned around and prepared to break the formation to save Yun Tianyi. With his magnanimity, he naturally wouldn't leave him to die. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit, and you're quite righteous. I, Yun Tianyi, owe you a favor. Yun Tianyi was a little jealous that Night's sorrow was stronger than him, but he was very grateful that Night's sorrow had saved Lin Mo and Zhou Tsangxue. Whether I owe you a favor or not, that's easy. The problem now is how to save you. I can't find the eye of this formation at all. The formation in front of him had some tricks. After Yun Tianyi activated it, he still couldn't find the eye of the formation. Moreover, it had nothing to do with his attributes. Night's sorrow, who had been pondering for a long time but still couldn't find a way to break the formation, was certain that he couldn't break it outside. Therefore, he condensed his power of merit and charged into the formation. What are you doing? We only have 2 invincible feather gods on this trip. If both of them die in the formation, what will happen to the rest? Seeing Night's sorrow enter the formation, Yun Tianyi immediately shouted angrily. The others also felt their hearts clench. Chapter 2484. I can't break the array from the outside, so I have to come in. If this continues, your divine essence energy will be exhausted sooner or later. If we don't break the array, we won't be able to get through. The opportunity will definitely fall into the hands of others. Night Sorrow's goal was to obtain Divine Lord Jinyuan's letter. He wanted to break the array as soon as possible more than anyone else. This wasn't just to save Yun Tianyi. After explaining, Night Sorrow condensed some power of merit to protect Yun Tianyi and share some of her pressure. As for himself, he was searching for the eye of the formation and other clues in the killing formation that was thousands of miles wide. With the blue phoenix armor protecting him, Night Sorrow didn't need to expend any effort to resist the soul-devouring evil wind and sword radiance. He could enter the killing array as if there was no one there. This shocked Yun Tianyi and the members of the Dark Alliance. At this moment, everyone, including Yun Tianyi, realized how big the gap was between them and Night Sorrow. This array has some tricks. It's not easy to break. The person who set up the array is very skilled. Inside the killing array, Night Sorrow didn't panic at all. It was just that the array was too difficult to break. He couldn't find a way to break it. This was because Night Sorrow had too few divine-level array diagrams. He had only seriously studied one and didn't have enough experience in array formations. Moreover, the person who set up the array was very skilled in array formations. If that's the case, I'll break the array with brute force. Unable to find a loophole, Night Sorrow decided to use the least technical and most domineering method to break the array. He would break it with brute force. Currently, the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear was a high god-level forbidden artifact. The Heavenly Samsara Halberd was only a feather god-level forbidden artifact. The Soul-Splitting Evil Vanquishing Spear was a monarch god-level artifact. Its grade was too high and difficult to control. Therefore, he kept it in his spatial artifact and didn't consider using it. After making his choice, Night Sorrow took the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear from his back and directly attacked the array's boundary. Under his attack, the killing array was obviously shaken. This seems to be effective. Seeing Night Sorrow's performance, Yuntiani was instantly energized. She immediately used a secret technique to increase her strength. She used the sword in her hand to perform an ultimate technique. The dazzling sword light immediately bombarded the barrier of the killing array. Boom! Night Sorrow had only used a normal attack, but Yuntiani had directly used his ultimate technique. He had achieved a greater effect and had shaken the boundary of the killing array even more clearly. Sure enough, it's effective. Breaking the formation is right in front of us. Yuntiani's aura became even stronger as she continuously displayed 3 types of sword techniques. Each move was more ruthless than the last, continuously shaking the barrier of the killing formation. Under his powerful attacks, cracks quickly appeared on the barrier. Night Sorrow then coordinated with his Inferno Demon subduing spear and continued to attack. It didn't take long for the barrier to break. Phew! I'm finally out. After escaping from the killing formation, Yuntiani felt the joy of surviving a calamity. She realized that she had indeed been too rash this time. He looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Thank you for your help this time. I will consider your opinion as we move forward." "It doesn't matter." Hearing this, Night Sorrow asked, "How much of your strength did you use just now?" "Of course it was 100%. If I didn't use my full strength, how could we have broken the formation so quickly? However, I still have a few trump cards that I haven't used yet," Yuntiani replied without hesitation. He had indeed used his full strength to eliminate some of his trump cards. With your strength, it's very likely that they have already sensed it. When Night Sorrow had attacked just now, he hadn't used his full strength at all because he knew that breaking the formation could be sensed by the people who had set it up. Unexpectedly, Yuntiani had used his full strength even though he hadn't used his full strength. It was too late for him to warn her. If we were to snatch resources together, we would have met sooner or later. It's not a big deal if they sensed our strength. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yuntiani immediately understood that he might have been exposed. However, since it was too late to regret, he didn't care anymore. They might be able to guess your identity. After all, the 100 people on the God of Feathers list are all out in the open. However, I didn't use my full strength just now, so they shouldn't be on guard against me. This is where our advantage lies. Night Sorrow explained, then continued, "Now that we know how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind and the various formations are, I'm afraid we'll have to change our strategy. Let's go back to the entrance and discuss it." The soul-devouring evil wind was much stronger than expected. Many of the Dark Alliance's high gods couldn't handle it. This was a big problem. Night Sorrow couldn't use his power of virtue to protect them forever. This matter had to be resolved immediately. "That's true. I'll try to use a spatial artifact to store everyone inside." Yuntiani knew that Night Sorrow's words made sense. The cave was too dangerous. If they entered without enough strength, the chances of dying were too high. What's going on? Why can't we store them? Yuntiani returned to the entrance and tried to store a half-step high god in his spatial artifact. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. The others tried as well, but found that spatial artifacts couldn't be used in the cave at all. They couldn't store or take people out. We can't even take them out. It seems that even if we store them inside, they won't be able to leave the cave. Yuntiani, who discovered this, made a prompt decision. Everyone, as you can see, the cave is too dangerous. Night Sorrow may be strong, but he can't take care of everyone all the time. What I mean is that you all go back the way you came, and I'll go in with him. It seems that's the only way now. I didn't expect the cave to become so scary. This wasn't what the elders told us. Lin Mo, who had been hoping to find an opportunity in the cave, sighed immediately. Among these people, he was second only to Yuntiani. If even he couldn't survive the soul-devouring evil wind, there was no need to mention the others. Let's not waste time. Let's not waste any more time. Let Brother Yi and Tian Yi go in deeper. let's go back the way we came. Zhou Zhangxue, who still had lingering fears, suggested. At this moment, seeing that the crowd was reluctant to leave, Yi Shang comforted them, everyone, don't worry. Aside from the letters that I was entrusted with, there are no other letters. I didn't ask for anything from the letter, and I'll share it with everyone. Thank you, Brother Yi. Lin Mo cupped his fists gratefully at Night Sorrow. He knew that Night Sorrow was the feather god of merit and would do what he said. Then, he led the Dark Alliance's half-step-high gods out of the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. There's only the two of us left. You're an expert on the feather god list, but the opponent is even stronger. We can't be careless. From now on, you have to follow me and don't be rash. Spatial artifacts can't be used here. If treasures appear, the competition will be very cruel. You have to be mentally prepared. After the others left, Night Sorrow looked at Yuntiani and instructed. He had been through countless battles. Yuntiani was relatively impulsive, so he had to explain things in advance. Okay, I'll listen to all your orders in the cave. Yuntiani, who had been very jealous of Night Sorrow, gradually began to admire him. He felt that not only was Night Sorrow's strength so outstanding that he couldn't see through him, but Night Sorrow was also much better than him in terms of character. The killing array I set up has been broken. There are two people who broke it. One of them is average, but the other is probably Yuntiani, who is ranked 100 on the Feather God list. Chapter 2485. The light on the white-haired young man's body was black, which completely blocked the soul-eating evil wind. They were already 100,000 miles into the cave, and the soul-eating evil wind was stronger than the one at the entrance, which meant that he was very powerful. Huh, Yuntiani who is ranked 100? I know he's nothing to be afraid of. Even I, Shang Wanhai, can easily kill him, let alone you, who is ranked 50 on the Feather God list. He can stay on the Feather God list because he hasn't been challenged. Shang Wanhai, who was wearing a navy blue robe, immediately sneered when he heard Yuntiani's name. Oh. Is it possible that he's hiding his strength like Ningxin and I? The white-haired young man Ji Hao looked at Shang Wanhai and then at Leng Ningxin, who was dressed in black. He was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, while Leng Ningxin was ranked 76th. Both of them were hiding their strength. No, definitely not. We are from the same sect, so I know he's not a shrewd person. Shang Wanhai explained casually. He and Yuntiani were from the same sect, but he didn't know that Yuntiani was from Haibei City. Otherwise, there would have been a fight between them. Langqi Mountain's hostility toward Haibei City wasn't that simple. That's for the best. We don't have to worry about others taking advantage of us. Ji Hao, who was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, looked into the distance and sighed. This immortal Jinyuan's cave is really hard to break through. We're already 100,000 miles in, but there are no opportunities and dangers everywhere. None of the arrays left by the immortal Jinyuan were simple. If it weren't for Ji Hao's high attainment in arrays, they wouldn't have been able to reach where they were now. Even though they were strong, they still lost a layer of skin after walking for 100,000 miles. The immortal Jinyuan's method of strengthening the divine soul must be in the cave. We haven't gone deep enough. As soon as Leng Ningxin spoke, the surroundings were instantly frozen. Her ice body was very strong. Yes, it must be so. But you'd better not talk. It's too cold. Shang Wanhai, who had just killed a puppet whose strength was close to that of a great god, said with a smile. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's soul-strengthening technique was something that not even the heartless Divine King had obtained back then. It was definitely still in the cave abode. That's for the best. Let's go deeper. Among the three of them, Ji Hao's strength and attainments in formations were the strongest, so he led the team in front. While the three of them were moving forward, Night Sorrow and Yuntiani continuously attacked and broke all the arrays set up by Ji Hao. Finally, they walked out of the circular corridor at the entrance. The two of them walked out of the circular corridor and immediately walked into a hall that was paved with stones. In the middle of the hall, there was a pile of huge broken stone pillars. Under the soul-devouring evil wind, these stone pillars were constantly blown to the ground and rolled away. All sorts of skeleton puppets spawned around the stone pillars. These skeleton puppets were very similar to the skeletons in the endless bone realm, but they were not quite the same. First of all, they were much more powerful. Most of them were at the lower or upper celestial realm. Second of all, they did not have much evil aura. They should have been artificially created, not bred evil creatures. What should we do next? Should we go around these skeletons or kill them directly? The square hall was very spacious. It was tens of thousands of miles long and wide. Night Sorrow and Yuntiani looked quite small in comparison. If they went around the edge of the hall, they might not be attacked by the skeletons. That was why Yuntiani asked this question. At this time, Night Sorrow said, "We entered the cave abode to try our luck, not to barge in blindly. Let's explore this place first. Although this hall is clear at a glance and the arrays set up have been broken, there are still some skeletons and stone pillars. That makes sense. Then let's study these skeletons and stone pillars carefully." Yuntiani nodded. She picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at a lower or upper celestial realm skeleton puppet, luring it to the edge of the hall. There were almost 100 lower or upper celestial realm skeletons near the stone pillars. Although Yuntiani was confident, she did not dare to charge directly. There are divine crystals in these skeletons that provide energy. They are of a very high grade and can be used for cultivation. After killing the skeletons, Yuntiani took out the divine crystals in the skull of the skeletons and said, "This divine crystal is indeed good. It can be used to power upper celestial realm skeleton puppets. But I don't think the cave abode of the Genuine Divine Lord is that simple. He is a genius who is proficient in alchemy, crafting and array Dao. Every area he designed might have a special meaning." At this point, Night Sorrow seemed to have an epiphany and said, "Yuntiani, let's go back." "Okay. Let's start from the beginning." Yuntiani was an invincible upper celestial, so she was naturally not a simpleton. She immediately understood what Night Sorrow meant and returned to the circular corridor with him to look for opportunities. After the two broke the array, they did not stop in this area and walked into the hall. After returning, they began to use their soul power to carefully search every gravel in the circular corridor. There seems to be life energy in this gravel. It might be a small world. After patiently searching for half a month in the circular corridor, Yuntiani suddenly shouted. He found a very special gravel. There is indeed life energy. Let's go in and take a look. Follow me. After discovering something, Night Sorrow immediately shrank his body and wanted to enter the gravel. But as soon as his body touched the gravel, he activated the array patterns on the gravel and was immediately sent flying by the light from the array patterns. It seems that if we want to enter this small world, we have to break the array outside. These array patterns are obviously more mysterious than the ones we broke just now. They might be the work of the Genuine Divine Lord. After discovering this situation, Night Sorrow began to study it with interest. Study it carefully. I don't understand these things at all. Yuntiani, who knew nothing about arrays, could only stare helplessly and could not help at all. These array patterns don't seem to be used to break them. They are used to learn. You should try to learn them too. Night Sorrow studied for 3 consecutive months and did not break the array on the gravel. But he made a surprising discovery. It turned out that the array patterns on the gravel did not need to be broken at all. He only needed to learn them to control the array on the gravel. Yishang's divine soul was extremely powerful. It was unknown how many times stronger than Yuntiani's. He only used a little more than a month to learn the array patterns, while Yuntiani used more than 2 years. I finally learned it. This thing is too complicated. My soul power is almost exhausted. After trying his best to learn the array patterns, Yuntiani rubbed his head and said. In the past, he was only interested in cultivation and improving his strength. He did not learn alchemy, refining weapons, or arrays. He felt that it was a waste of energy. Now, learning this array pattern was very laborious. Since you have learned it, let's control the array and enter the gravel together. Night Sorrow, who had been waiting for Yuntiani for many days, said, and then controlled the array to enter the gravel. Yuntiani followed closely behind and entered the small world in the gravel. After entering the small world, Night Sorrow and Yuntiani were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Chapter 2486. In front of them was a sea of soul-devouring beasts. The strongest soul-devouring beast king was a half-step divine lord. The other billions of soul-devouring beasts were basically at the feather god realm and high god realm. They were densely packed as far as the eye could see. The evil dark aura almost broke through the sky. The difference in numbers between the two sides was too great. Night Sorrow and Yuntiani were a little shocked. This was something they never expected. How is this an opportunity? This is clearly the soul-devouring beast's lair. We are too smart for our own good. Facing the ferocious soul-devouring beast army in front of them, Yuntiani was quite frightened. She already had thoughts of retreating and looking for the small world's exit. But after looking around, she did not find anything. Clearly, this place could only be entered but not exited. Don't panic. Let's observe first. Yuntiani was clearly a little impatient. Night Sorrow, who was carefully observing the soul-devouring beasts, reminded him. The soul-devouring beast army was indeed terrifying. The dark aura was shocking, but there were no divine lords among them. He was only wary but not very afraid. Still not panicking? I've read about soul-devouring beasts in the classics. They can devour the souls of cultivators. If you are devoured by them, your physical body will become a shell without intelligence. Yuntiani, who was still looking for the exit, was extremely flustered. She did not have the demeanor of an invincible feather god expert. 2 human cultivators. Where is Zhenyuan? Get him to come out and fight with me. At this moment, the half-step divine lord soul-devouring beast king suddenly spoke. Its voice was very cold, giving people an extremely evil feeling. After the soul-devouring beast king spoke, all the soul-devouring beasts turned their attention to Night Sorrow and Yuntiani. Being stared at like this, Yuntiani's hair stood on end. Even Night Sorrow felt very uncomfortable. There were simply too many soul-devouring beasts. The feeling they gave people was that kind of cold evil feeling. They had not attacked yet, but it made the two of them very uncomfortable. It was as if their divine souls were being pulled. I'm asking you, where is divine Lord Zhenyuan? Night Sorrow and Yuntiani did not answer. The soul-devouring beast king immediately flew into a rage and shouted again. What should we do now? I can't beat him, and I have nowhere to run. Yuntiani felt that her soul was about to explode after being interrogated by the soul-devouring beast king. She shook her head and said. This soul-devouring beast king only had the strength of a half-step divine lord, yet it shamelessly boasted that it wanted to challenge an invincible divine lord. This was clearly a bit strange. But facing it, Yuntiani felt like her head was about to explode. Since there's no chance to escape, let's fight. Don't stray too far from me, and don't use the power of your spirit. Night Sorrow ignored the soul-devouring beast king's shouts and used his divine soul power to probe the soul-devouring beast army. When he discovered that any soul energy that approached the soul-devouring beasts would be devoured, he reminded Yuntiani and took the lead to charge towards the soul-devouring beasts. Night Sorrow did not find any exits after using his divine soul power to probe the surroundings. Under such circumstances, they could only choose to fight. He guessed that these soul-devouring beasts might have been sealed by divine Lord Zhenyuan back then, and were accidentally discovered by the two of them. There are so many soul-devouring beasts, we can't win at all. Aren't we courting death if we charge in like this? Seeing Night Sorrow charge into the soul-devouring beast army, Yuntiani, who immediately followed, broke down a little. Both sides were outnumbered. He felt that charging into the soul-devouring beast army was an act of suicide. The path of cultivation can't be smooth sailing. It's normal to encounter enemies that can't be defeated. Now that there's no way out, it's over for us to fight. Follow me and attack the soul-devouring beast king with all your might. When approaching the soul-devouring beast army, Knight Sorrow suddenly used the power of merit, causing the golden dragon of merit to coil around his body. The power of merit coiled around his body, and the corrosive dark aura was immediately dispersed. Some of the divine feather realm's soul-devouring beasts sensed the aura of the power of merit and immediately dodged in fear. The high god realm's soul-devouring beasts' movements were also slightly affected. Only the half-step divine lord's soul-devouring beast king was not affected by the power of merit at all. It took the initiative to attack the two of them. Its attacks targeted the soul directly, and the blue phoenix armor could only offset a portion of it. Just in time. As long as I control you, the other soul-devouring beasts are nothing to be afraid of. Facing the soul-devouring beast's soul attack, Knight Sorrow tried his best to resist while dispersing a portion of the power of merit. He used his left hand to absorb the dark aura emitted by the soul-devouring beast army. He had done something like absorbing the dark aura in the endless bone region before. Trying it again was a walk in the park. All he needed was time. Enough ants could kill an elephant. There were too many soul-devouring beasts. No matter what, it was impossible to kill all of them. Knight Sorrow prepared to absorb enough dark aura before using soul control on the soul-devouring beast king. As long as he enslaved it, the threat of the other soul-devouring beasts would naturally be resolved. Yuntiani, cooperate with me to attack it. I need to injure it. Chapter 2487. Don't worry, I'm fine. This is my method. With the power of virtue protecting his body, it was not too easy to absorb the darkness aura. Knight Sorrow simply put away the power of virtue. The current him already looked like he was completely shrouded by the darkness aura, as if he had transformed into a humanoid soul-devouring beast. It was no wonder that Yuntiani was worried. After replying to Yuntiani, Knight Sorrow began to prepare his next attack. If the soul-devouring beast king was not injured, he would definitely be asking for trouble by using soul control. And in the divine Lord Jinyuan's abode, he could not use spatial artifacts. He could not take out the divine soul recovery pill to recover his body. Therefore, the 7-star rampage could not be used at will. Hence, the attack power against a half-step divine lord was a little weaker. Looking at it now, I can only use this move. Thinking for a moment, Knight Sorrow simply steeled his heart and fused the Inferno Demon subduing spear into the heavenly Samsara halberd. After the two fused, the newly formed heavenly Samsara halberd was still mainly reincarnation attribute. However, the spear body became emerald green and covered in blazing flames. Try my Samsara strike. After fusing the new heavenly Samsara halberd, Knight Sorrow casually waved and fired an attack at the half-step divine lord realm's soul-devouring beast king. This spear contained a very powerful reincarnation attribute. It instantly dropped the soul-devouring beast king's strength to high god level. Yuntiani, use your strongest move to attack it. Now is a good opportunity. Knight Sorrow, who succeeded in one attack, expended quite a lot of energy. He needed a certain amount of time to recover his divine essence energy. He could only let Yuntiani attack the soul-devouring beast king. Alright, I'll try my best. Hearing this, Yuntiani did not hesitate at all and unleashed her trump card mystic art. She burned her bloodline power, raising her cultivation several times, and once again displayed the phaseless sword formation. Yuntiani's phaseless sword formation locked onto the soul-devouring beast king once more and shot out sword energy continuously. The soul-devouring beast king's aura immediately weakened greatly. Now! Protect me! The soul-devouring beast king's aura had clearly weakened. Knight Sorrow realized that his chance had come. He shouted at Yuntiani and used his dark aura to control the soul-devouring beast king's soul. Originally, the soul-devouring beast king's divine soul was very powerful, and Knight Sorrow was far from being its match. However, it had been reduced by a level by the power of reincarnation, and it needed to control its divine soul to resist Yuntiany's non-phase sword array. In this period of time, their strength was already infinitely close. Night Sorrow, who had experience in soul control several times, once again used the power of merit against the soul-devouring beast king. This was done to defend against the other soul-devouring beasts and also to disturb the soul-devouring beast king. No matter what kind of dark creature it was, they would all be wary of the power of merit. This was an unchanging truth. Are you using darkness control on a creature of darkness? Yuntiany, who had ignited his bloodline to increase his strength, was a little weak. However, after confirming that Night Sorrow was using soul control, he immediately understood what to do. He swore to guard Night Sorrow with his life, not allowing any soul-devouring beasts to approach. Yuntiany needed to continuously ignite his bloodline power to do this, which consumed a lot of energy. But if he did not persevere, Night Sorrow would be disturbed by the soul-devouring beast and would definitely fail at the last step. Then, both of them would die. This soul-devouring beast's divine soul power doesn't seem to be as powerful as I imagined. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who was locked in a stalemate with the soul-devouring beast king's soul, discovered that the soul-devouring beast king's soul seemed to be incomplete. This discovery was of great help to him. In the stalemate, Night Sorrow mocked, "You're not complete. If I'm not wrong, you've already been beaten into several parts." Doing this was naturally to disturb the soul-devouring beast king's mind. Now that the two souls were entangled together, a single thought would be sensed by the other party. "Human. Your tricks won't be able to disturb this king. This king will successfully control you." Since ancient times, soul-devouring beasts had always controlled cultivators. This was the first time the soul-devouring beast king encountered a situation where its mind was controlled by a human cultivator. Naturally, it would not give up so easily. However, Night Sorrow's guess was not wrong. Its soul had indeed been scattered. Right now, only a small part was left, which was why it had the strength of a half-step Divine Lord. "Just now, you said that you wanted to challenge Divine Lord Jinyuan. It seems like you should have been an invincible Divine Lord at your peak. However, you were already defeated by Divine Lord Jinyuan and split into your current state." Recalling the soul-devouring beast king's words when it first came out, Night Sorrow quickly made his own judgment. "Nonsense, you're talking nonsense." The moment Night Sorrow said that, the soul-devouring beast king immediately recalled how it was beaten up by Divine Lord Jinyuan. Its soul began to tremble violently and its body swayed non-stop. "Order the other soul-devouring beasts to stop." Taking advantage of the soul-devouring beast king's soul fluctuation, Night Sorrow completely controlled it and issued an order. "Warriors of the soul-devouring beast clan, listen to this king's order and stop attacking." The soul-devouring beast king, who was controlled by Night Sorrow, immediately issued an order obediently. Under its order, all the soul-devouring beasts stopped attacking. "Yuntiany, how are you?" After controlling the soul-devouring beast king, Night Sorrow immediately recovered. However, he saw that Yuntiany's aura was extremely weak. Night Sorrow, who helped Yuntiany up, used the power of merit to disperse the dark aura around him. "I'm exhausted. I need to leave the cave and take some elixirs to consume." Yuntiany had a special elixir on her, but she could not take it out now. "Alright, hold on a little longer. I'll think of a way." After speaking to Yuntiany, Night Sorrow ordered the soul-devouring beast king, "Let all the soul-devouring beasts kill each other." Just now, he read some of the soul-devouring beast king's soul and knew that its soul was indeed shattered by the Divine Lord Jinyuan and split into several parts. It was the true king of the soul-devouring beast clan. The other soul-devouring beasts would obey any order it gave. Yes. The soul-devouring beast king, who was controlled by Night Sorrow, immediately obeyed the order. Under its order, tens of thousands of soul-devouring beasts began to kill each other crazily. Their numbers also rapidly decreased. "It's still too slow. You go and fight too." "No, you make them stop." In the soul-devouring Beast King's memory, there was no exit to this small world. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted the soul-devouring Beast King to order all the soul-devouring beasts to self-destruct, suddenly thought of a way to get out. He took Yuntiani and hid at the edge of the small world. Then, he let the soul-devouring Beast King order the other soul-devouring beasts to gather at the other edge of the small world and self-destruct together. Bang! 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 With so many soul-devouring beasts gathered at one point, the power of their self-destruction could be imagined. The originally stable small world suddenly had a hole blown open. You can also take care of it yourself. Self-destruct. Originally, there were hundreds of millions of soul-devouring beasts, but now there was only one soul-devouring Beast King left. Night Sorrow hesitated for a moment, gave up the idea of controlling it, and let it self-destruct. With a loud bang, the soul-devouring Beast King also exploded into nothingness. At the same time, a tall shadow appeared in front of Night Sorrow and Yuntiani. Divine Lord Jinyuan? Chapter 2488. I'm just a phantom image left behind by the Divine Lord in this world. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's shout, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image immediately sighed. I actually saw the legendary Divine Lord Jinyuan. Yuntiani, who was originally in a bad state, immediately had a clear look in his eyes. Although it was just a phantom image of Divine Lord Jinyuan in front of him, he was still very excited. After all, it was rare to see an invincible Divine Lord. I stayed here to give you your rewards. You killed so many soul-devouring beasts and deserve the soul-strengthening elixir and this elixir recipe. With a wave of his hand, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out an elixir recipe and a soul-strengthening elixir. Thank you, Divine Lord. Upon seeing the elixir recipe and soul-strengthening elixir floating in the air, Night Sorrow thanked him before looking at Yuntiani and saying, You can choose first. Leave the rest to me. I choose the soul-strengthening elixir. It can strengthen the soul and is very useful to me. Yuntiani was not interested in alchemy. Without hesitation, he chose the soul-strengthening elixir. The elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir? Night Sorrow, who took the elixir recipe, laughed when he saw the name of the elixir recipe. Yuntiani chose fish, but what he received was a fish. With the elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir, he did not have to worry about a lack of soul-strengthening elixir in the future. I don't have much time. What do you want to ask? How about this, each of you ask a question and I'll try my best to answer. After Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out the soul-strengthening elixir and the elixir recipe, it clearly became more transparent and would probably disappear soon. You can ask first. Night Sorrow already had a question in mind, but he let Yuntiani ask first. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yuntiani thought for a moment before asking, Divine Lord, are you still alive? This question surprised Night Sorrow. He originally thought that Yuntiani would ask about the opportunities in the cave abode. Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image hesitated for a moment before saying, I definitely died back then. I'm not sure if I'm alive or dead now. Oh. In that case, there's a possibility of God's sovereign Jinyuan reviving? Yuntiani's eyes lit up when she got the answer. You think too much. What I mean is that this phantom has always been in the small world and doesn't know what's going on in the outside world. I believe that the real Divine Lord Jinyuan has already perished. What remains in the world should only be a few phantoms. After saying that, the phantom turned even dimmer. At this moment, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, Ask away. I would like to ask Divine Lord, where is the letter you left for Senior Long Tianqing? Without any hesitation, Yi Shan asked directly. Tianqing? How is she now? Hearing this, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan clearly trembled. Senior Long's condition is still alright. Night Sorrow told him about Long Tianqing's situation and their karma. I have let her down. The phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan seemed to be immersed in his memories. After a while, he became so dim that he was almost invisible. Finally, he sighed and said, "The letter is in my coffin. My coffin is in the deepest part of the cave abode." This time, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan did not address himself as the real divine Lord Jinyuan. After saying that, he completely dissipated into the air. At this moment, Yuntiany's condition was very bad. Night Sorrow helped her out of the cave abode and found a secluded corner to set up a concealment array so that she could recover. Night Sorrow took out some elixirs that he often used and placed them in an ordinary medicine bottle. He hung it on his belt. Sir God Jinyuan said that the letter was in his coffin and the coffin was in the deepest part of the cave abode. Night Sorrow decided that the next time he entered, he would not deliberately look for opportunities. Instead, he would go straight to the deepest part of the cave abode. To him, obtaining the letter and obtaining information about how to save his family was more important than anything else. Oh. Someone is coming. Night Sorrow was not seriously injured. While Yuntiany was recovering, he had been guarding her and did not cultivate. While Yuntiany was recovering, Night Sorrow saw Mingyi's daughter, Mingyu, enter the cave abode with an invincible feather god and 5 or 6 cultivators who were close to the level of an invincible feather god. Mingyu, who had just become a half-step high god, was obviously not as strong as Lin Mo. However, after entering the cave abode, she did not come out. She must have a way to protect herself. That invincible feather god is obviously much stronger than Yuntiany. I wonder who he is. The invincible feather god that Mingyu had brought with her was definitely not the one that Zhuang He had mentioned. Night Sorrow could not guess his identity. However, if Yuntiany was awake, she would definitely recognize him. He was Yan Jiannan, ranked 27th on the feather god list. This Yan Jiannan came from the martial god sect of the Heartless Divine Realm. He was Mingyu's senior brother. Although he was in the Heartless Divine Realm, he was not from there. More people are coming? Not long after Mingyu and the others entered, Mingyi's military advisor, King Mingzi, brought Mingyi's son, Mingjue, and 2 other invincible feather gods into the cave abode. They were in a hurry and seemed to be traveling at night. Because they were in a hurry to enter, they did not discover Yishang's concealment formation. Mingyi's daughter and son know that Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods have entered. They even invited reinforcements. This is going to be a fight to the death. If I'm not mistaken, the reinforcements they invited must be stronger than Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods. Although Night Sorrow did not know who Mingyu and Mingjue had invited, he knew that they were not weak. There are more people? No, this is the aura of a divine lord. Just then, Night Sorrow sensed an extremely dangerous aura. Without hesitation, he dragged Yuntiany into the cave abode. As soon as they disappeared into the cave abode, a huge handprint slammed toward them. It crashed into the cave abode with a boom. Why are there more divine lords here? The trip to the cave abode was getting more and more complicated. Night Sorrow waited for Yuntiany to wake up and tell him what he had seen. With a divine lord here, we can't leave the cave abode easily. If I had known, would have taken out more elixirs. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yuntiany sighed and asked, Night Sorrow, how strong are you? If we encounter those people inside, do we have a chance of winning? After absorbing the soul-strengthening elixir, Yuntiany's divine soul had become much stronger. However, he was still weaker than some of the invincible feather gods who had entered. Hearing this, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, I don't know their true strength, but we should be able to escape unscathed. Now that he had the soul recovery elixir, he could use the 7-star violent alcade and master the vanishing shadow void escape. Night Sorrow felt that no matter what kind of feather god realm genius he encountered, he would be able to put up a fight. Then I know. Yuntiany smiled and said, they've all gone in. Let's go. Let's go. Night Sorrow nodded and walked into the cave abode with Yuntiany. Chapter 2489. The sounds of fighting came from the hall. Night Sorrow and Yuntiany were blocked in the passage. Let's go check it out. Be careful and control your aura. Night Sorrow instructed Yuntiany. Then, he concealed his aura and went to the exit of the passage. God Jinyuan's projection had said that the letter was in the coffin in the deepest part of the cave. Night Sorrow did not want to be delayed by anyone. He wanted to see if there was a chance to go over. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Yin Tianyi was mediocre compared to Night Sorrow. But she was still a genius on the God of Feathers list. His concealment skills were quite good. He followed behind Yi Shang and quietly crept up. The two of them hid at the entrance of the passage. They looked around and realized that the two parties fighting were Ming Yu and Ming Ju. They were fighting near the stone pillar in the center of the hall. Qing Mingzi stood awkwardly at the side and tried to persuade them. Although he had come in with Ming Ju, he was Ming He's military advisor and could not attack Ming Yu. Ming Yu, who was dressed in black, and Ming Ju, who was dressed in white, were fighting fiercely. Although they were brother and sister, they had the same father but different mothers. Their mothers hated each other, so they had fought each other since they were young. Both of them had just broken through to the half-step Great God realm, and their defensive robes and divine weapons were more or less the same. They were evenly matched in battle. However, there were also saber lights and sword shadows, and danger was everywhere. Qing Mingzi was so anxious that he was jumping. But no matter how he tried to persuade them, they ignored him and continued to fight. They did not look like brother and sister at all. On the other side, Yan Jianan, who was ranked 27th on the God of Feathers list, was leading 5 cultivators who were close to the invincible Divine Feather Realm. They were fighting against 2 invincible Divine Feather Realm cultivators. Both sides were fighting fiercely, but they were holding back. They did not intend to fight to the death. They were evenly matched. Actually, with their strength and status, they did not need to give face to Ming Yu and Ming Ju. But this opportunity was brought by the 2 siblings. They had to pretend. The battle was in full swing, but there wasn't much sweat, and neither side was really injured. Why are these 2 siblings fighting as soon as they come in? What a hindrance. Night Sorrow had never seen Ming Yu before, but from Qing Mingzi's reaction, he understood that Ming He's children were fighting. It's actually Yan Jianan, Huang Lai, and Yun Sangping. The 3 of them are ranked 27th, 41st, and 48th on the Divine Feathers list, respectively. Yin Tianyi was shocked when she saw the 2 sides fighting. Night Sorrow said, "These are the top 10 feather god experts in the Dark Moon's territory. It seems that our trip to the cave won't be too smooth." Yin Tianyi had an arrogant and unruly personality. It was very difficult for ordinary people to make him submit willingly. However, now that so many Feather God Realm experts had appeared, and they were all much stronger than him, this made him a little depressed. He felt that he had become a burden. Don't worry. It's not all about strength to find opportunities in the cave. Besides, we're not bad in terms of strength. So far, Night Sorrow had learned that the opponents were Sheng Guanhai's group and Ming He's children's group. Their strength was about the same. In comparison, he and Yin Tianyi were not weak. However, they would only know the specific situation after they fought. Besides, there might be other experts that they did not know about. These were all variables. No one was 100% sure that they could come out on top. This is the first time that I, Yin Tianyi, have been a burden to others. This feeling is really terrible. Yin Tianyi had always been the top genius among the elites cultivated by the Dark Alliance. He was not used to the current situation. You can't think like that. You did very well in the small world just now. You didn't hold us back at all. Don't deny it. Besides, even if you're weaker, you can still turn the tables if you get the inheritance of the Divine Lord. Otherwise, all the opportunities in the cave will be taken by the strongest. Seeing that Yin Tianyi was a little negative, Night Sorrow comforted her. Fighting for treasures was indeed related to luck. Strength was very important, but sometimes it could not play a decisive role. After being comforted, Yin Tianyi obviously felt better and no longer worried about this matter. Looking at the 2 sides fighting, he said, "This hall is clear at a glance. There is no cover at all. It's not convenient for us to go over. What should we do next? Should we just keep watching? Of course we can't keep watching. Shangguan Hai's group has been in there for a long time. We can follow them, but we can't fall too far behind. Otherwise, the big opportunities inside may be taken by them. Night Sorrow's purpose was to get the letter in the deepest part of the cave. It was okay to fall behind a little, but definitely not too far behind. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's go out and stop the fight." Stop the fight? Won't we be exposed? Isn't it better for us to stay in the dark? Yun Tianyi asked, puzzled. She felt that Night Sorrow's choice was a little risky. We're not weak. There's no need to hide. Instead of watching them fight, why don't we think of a way to stop them? Night Sorrow, who was confident in his own strength, stood up and walked to Qing Mingzi. He smiled and shouted, "Mr. Qing Mingzi, so you're here too? Master Night Sorrow, it's you? You're not affected by the soul-devouring evil wind?" The moment he saw Night Sorrow, Qing Mingzi was obviously a little stunned. His and Mingi's children relied on the defensive robes of large sects to withstand the impact of the soul-devouring evil wind. He could not figure out how Night Sorrow, a middle-level feather god, could stand in the cave. In his opinion, Night Sorrow should have been plundered by the high god Feng Shaoyun until he was penniless. That was why he could keep his life. I was lucky to get a robe that can withstand the soul-devouring evil wind. Night Sorrow said perfunctorily and asked, "Mr. Qing Mingzi, why are the children of Lord Mingi fighting together?" "Ah, it's a long story. When Yishang had first appeared, both sides of the battle had used their soul power to investigate him. They found that Night Sorrow was only a middle-level feather god and knew Qing Mingzi. They treated him as heir and continued to fight fiercely. Only Mingyu saw Night Sorrow's figure and his eyes lit up. He shouted, "Master Night Sorrow, help me kill Mingyu. We'll split any gains from this trip equally." She had seen Night Sorrow use the Samsara halberd to fight against the forbidden feather divine weapon in the Jubao Pavilion. According to her judgment, although Night Sorrow was not strong enough to deal with an invincible feather god, as long as he used the forbidden feather divine weapon, he would definitely be able to deal with Mingyu. "I'm sorry. I'm indebted to Lord Mingi and can't attack his son." "Of course, it's the same for you." Chapter 2490. How long have they been inside? Yan Jiannan, who was in the middle of a battle, immediately shouted when he heard Night Sorrow's words. To him, the opportunities in the cave were more important. He wasn't interested in meaningless battles. They should have been inside for 2 or 3 years. Yun Tianyi slowly walked to Night Sorrow's side and replied on his behalf, blending into the crowd. Actually, 2 or 3 years was a short time in the heavenly realm, but no one wanted to fall behind. Hearing this, both sides were obviously anxious, but they were more concerned about Yun Tianyi, an expert on the feather god list. Yun Tianyi's appearance immediately made both sides wary. Although she was only ranked 100 on the feather god list, the balance would be broken no matter which side she joined. If the balance was broken, there would definitely be casualties if the battle continued. These people didn't see Night Sorrow's true strength, but they saw Yun Tianyi as a delicious cake. "Yun Tianyi, come and help me. After we get out, I will give you a lot of resources. I guarantee that you will move up at least 10 places on the feather god list." There were only a dozen experts on the feather god list in the Dark Moon region, and they all knew each other. Yan Jiannan, who was ranked the highest, immediately shouted at Yun Tianyi. Yun Tianyi wasn't much of a threat to him, but she could be a disruptor. This made him feel a little pressured. It didn't matter if he didn't kill anyone, but Yan Jiannan naturally didn't want to be killed. "Yun Tianyi, join us. Lingxi, the Divine King, will be your support in the future." Huang Lai, who was ranked 41st on the feather god list, immediately made a promise when he saw that Yan Jiannan wanted to recruit Yun Tianyi. In the Dark Moon region, the Divine King was undoubtedly the most powerful existence apart from the high and mighty ruler. Using the Divine King as bait was obviously more tempting than using Yan Jiannan. Upon hearing this, Yan Jianan immediately said, Yun Tianyi, I, Yan Jianan, not only have the Divine King behind me, but also the entire divine martial arts sect. Think about it carefully. The Divine King Gate is located in the Heartless Divine Domain. Is the Heartless Divine King behind you? Upon hearing Yan Jianan's words, Yun Tianyi, who originally had no intention of attacking, unconsciously released a murderous aura. The Divine King Wu Xian had dealt a heavy blow to High Base City. His father was one of those who had been suppressed, and now his whereabouts were unknown. What? You want to kill me? Yan Jianan, who was fighting, didn't look at Yun Tianyi, but he could feel the murderous aura coming from him. Immediately, a trace of anger rose in him. However, when he thought of Yun Tianyi's words, Yan Jianan suddenly laughed and said, There's no harm in telling you. Although I'm in the Heartless Divine Domain, the Divine King behind me is someone else. You can feel at ease and join my side. Yan Jianan wasn't stupid at all. He could feel that Yun Tianyi's murderous aura was targeted at the Divine King, not him. Moreover, he didn't dare to anger Yun Tianyi at all. Join our side and you'll definitely get more benefits. For example, Yun Sangping, who was beside Huang Lai, also tried to persuade him. He was more eloquent, and he endlessly promised many rewards. Forget it. It's better for a small fry like me to not participate in the fight between the two of you. Otherwise, you might not die, but I'll die anyway. At this moment, Yun Tianyi heard Night Sorrow's telepathic message and didn't continue to pester him. After saying that, he walked into the depths of the cave. Night Sorrow, who had been chatting with Qing Mingzi, saw Yun Tianyi walk away. He looked at Qing Mingzi apologetically and said, I have to go. After saying that, Night Sorrow immediately followed after him. So you've become someone's lackey. But it seems like you're not strong enough. It's easy to break. Ming Yu, who had been rejected by Night Sorrow, said coldly when he saw him quickly chasing after Yun Tianyi. Ming Yu was very vengeful. The next time they met, she would ask her helpers to kill Night Sorrow directly. Young masters, please stop. We're here to snatch the opportunity. If you continue fighting, there won't be any soup left. The only idle person was Qing Mingzi. He was only an upper-level feather god. He was the weakest person present. If he wasn't proficient in array Dao, he wouldn't even be qualified to enter. Seeing Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi leave, he couldn't stop them at all. He could only shout at Ming Yu and Ming Ju. If they continued fighting, it wouldn't benefit anyone. Hearing Qing Mingzi's words, Ming Yu and Ming Ju gradually separated. The others also returned to their own camps. This battle was considered to have come to an end. After that, they left the main hall and walked into the depths of the cave. After they left, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi returned to the main hall. Just like the passageway, let's look for clues carefully and see if we can find anything in the main hall. After returning to the main hall, Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi said a few words. Then, they started to look for clues in the main hall. At this moment, Yun Tianyi asked curiously, I remember that when we first came to this main hall, many skeleton puppets spawned near the stone pillars. Why are they gone now? The place where the two groups were fighting was where the skeletons were originally spawned. Now, not a single skeleton could be seen. This was obviously strange. I feel that there are three possibilities. The first possibility is that the projection of the Divine Lord Zhenyuan helped us to remove the skeletons. These are obviously created by him, but this possibility is not high. The second possibility is that there is an array in the main hall that controls the skeleton's respawn, but it was destroyed by Ming Yu or Ming Ju. Night Sorrow naturally observed this situation. After explaining, he said in a more serious tone, the third possibility is that the energy of the cave has weakened and is not enough to support the operation of some array. Therefore, the skeletons can't respawn. If this is the last possibility, we have to hurry if we want to seize the opportunity. Okay. Let's search this main hall as soon as possible. Yun Tianyi, who had already obtained benefits from the circular passageway and seen the projection of the divine Lord Jinyuan, did the same thing in the main hall. However, after the two of them searched carefully for 2 hours, Knight Sorrow was the first to discover the situation. He used the power of his divine soul to investigate. In a stone that had been blown off by the soul-devouring evil wind, there was a fluctuation of life similar to the one in gravel. Last time, it was gravel. This time, it is a stone. Will it be too risky for us to go in? Yun Tianyi said with lingering fear as he recalled the terrifying experience in the gravel. After all, in terms of volume, a stone was dozens of times larger than a gravel. Although the stone is big, it contains a similar amount of life energy. I estimate that the strength of the creatures in the small world should be about the same as the ones in the gravel. Let's learn the array patterns first. Knight Sorrow, who was not sure what was inside, but there was definitely a fluctuation of life energy, started to learn the array patterns on the stone as soon as he finished speaking. Knight Sorrow, who had already learned the array patterns on the gravel, took less time than the last time to learn something similar. It only took him about 20 days. Yun Tianyi's improvement was obviously greater. The last time he learned the array patterns on the gravel, it took him more than 2 years. This time, it only took him 3 months. Your comprehension has improved a lot. Is it related to the soul-strengthening elixir? Knight Sorrow asked after seeing Yun Tianyi's performance. Yes. After taking the soul-strengthening elixir, the power of my divine soul has increased significantly. My comprehension has also improved greatly. The things given by the Divine Lord are indeed extraordinary. If he had not learned the array patterns, Yun Tianyi would not have realized that his comprehension had improved so much. Now that he had made this discovery, he could not wait to say, now that we have mastered the array patterns on this stone, why don't we strike while the iron is hot and go in and try our luck? Okay. If it is still the same as the world in the gravel, you will continue to cooperate with me. Otherwise, we will act according to the circumstances. Knight Sorrow instructed and took the lead to enter the small world contained in the stone. Don't worry. With the previous experience, we will definitely finish the battle quickly and catch up with the people in front. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.